I know.
Oh, no.
He officially retired.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. I would love to be.
I call the regular schedule, October the seventh, the supervisors meeting to order. With that, we some prayer, please. Let us pray. God, our Father, who made the heavens and the earth, Father, who led us out to this place once again, this brick building on the side of the road. Father, the county gave us a task to do. Father, we hope that our eyes are open and our hearts are open. And whatever decisions we have to make, Father, we hope it be a blessing to you as well as our neighbors and our friends. Then after the day is all done, Father, give us the understanding that it's okay. In Jesus' name, we all do pray. Amen. Sam, I pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A motion would be order for the approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Jessen.
Second.
Call, please.
Mr. Bill Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Crittenden,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Don Harris.
Yes. Motion. Under the consent agenda, we have a special recognition award for Mr. Les Hockman. He is here today along with his wife. Thank y'all for being here. And I'd like Mr. Lewis to come forward and to make a presentation of the plaque. We're delighted that we can honor you, sir, and that it's been quite a few years that you've served on the airport committee.
You don't have to see.
Your mic is not on.
All right, from the County of Middlesex, presented to G. Les Hockman. A recognition of service on the airport committee from October 1998 to July 2025. It's a period of 26 years. With best wishes, full of good health and pleasure. Presented by the Board of Supervisors, Middlesex County, September 9th, 2025, signed Matt Walker, clerk.
Okay, we'd like to take a picture, sir, if you could just, and Ms. Hockman, you're welcome to be in the picture as well, if you'd like. And Larry's not here, so we're going to have a substitute person taking a picture.
Yep.
If you want to sit down in that wood chair, you can, but if you can stand, that's fine too. Either way. Get in there.
Hold on. Ms. Barnhart, you need to get in.
You get in there, Dan. Don't be shy.
You're there. Right here. I cannot say it again. Right here. Right by. That'll be.
Wayne's dressed nice. You don't want to get beside Wayne. All right, here we go.
Very good.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, before I leave, y'all gonna hear from me. I say, follow a good friend of mine down here. Back in '98, I left Richmond. I'm a product of the Shenandoah Valley. The north end of it. I come down here and I run into a whole pile of good people. And I lived, raised up on the Shenandoah River, North Fork. I didn't know there was as much water as down here. But I want to tell you, I thank you forever. And as far as my part of the airport, you know, 20-some years in the airport, I kind of attached aircraft, but I enjoyed being on the committee
Thank you,
and
sir.
helping with what little bit I could do.
Well, we appreciate it.
All
Thank you.
right, y'all have a beautiful day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Bobby.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could say, Les has also been a long time member of the Deltaville Rescue Squad. And he has been a driver. He's been my driver for many calls, and he's he's definitely a person that we could thank and look up to.
Thank
And
you.
I'm also proud master mason.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Les.
Well,
Okay, treasurer's report, oh, sorry. How could I forget that?
And I do have two public speakers if you're ready.
Okay, we're now in the public comment, part of our agenda. Who do you have first?
My first public speaker is Thomas Major of Saluda.
Thank you. Mr. Major?
Good afternoon again, board. I'm back once again to express my deep ongoing concern about the proposed solar facility on the old landfill and the Thacker property. As I stated last month, my concerns are not about the aesthetics of this project, the potential impacts to the property values, or because I don't want to see it on the way to my second home, like the reasons this board previously voted down the Crittenden solar facility. My concern is rooted in the health and safety of the land, the surrounding properties, and the Dragon Run watershed. Now let's go back to the July 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting, the last time the ARM group was here before today, and I want to share some direct quotes from that meeting. Almost immediately, the ARM group representative stated, "We are over the groundwater protection standard for vinyl chloride." That is a statement worth repeating. Even today, according to the graph you're going to be shown shortly, the levels of vinyl chloride in those wells remain 5 times higher than what are considered safe. At the same meeting, the ARM group representative advised that DEQ was recommending multiple wells be drilled and that oxidizing compounds be injected to treat the groundwater contamination. What happened to that plan and the need for those? Also during that meeting, this board expressed significant concerns about the potential for drilling and construction on that property to stir up more problems. What has happened to those concerns? Yes, the ARM group will present you a chart today showing progress, a downward trend in vinyl chloride levels. And I agree, this trend is encouraging. However, the levels are still well above the recommended groundwater protection standard. And let's not forget, the site must remain below that standard for 3 consecutive years before it can be deemed safe and monitoring can stop. We're nowhere near that point. Vinyl chloride is a volatile organic compound. It's classified as a Group A human carcinogen, the EPA's highest level of concern for cancer-causing substances. Any amount of vinyl chloride in our water and soil is too much. Vinyl chloride is grouped with other hydrocarbons such as oil, gas, and paint thinners. None of us would expect for those to be in our waterways, so why should we accept this one? I can't understand the rush or the need for this project. It must not be the money. The board previously turned down the Crittenden solar facility, which would have provided the county with $1.4 million in an upfront payment. The current project is slated to pay out $1.9 million over 25 years, which barely covers the salary of a single county employee over that 25-year span. This project offers no long-term benefit to the county no jobs, no community advantages, and certainly no benefit to the land or the neighboring properties. Make this project make sense. The updated data you'll see today may show vinyl chloride levels are trending downward since the last presentation, but it will also confirm that we're still a long way from reaching the point where the property can be considered safe. Give the residents of Stormont some peace of mind and show them that the county truly cares. Stop the project until the vinyl chloride levels are safe and DEQ has released the property from monitoring requirements. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Major.
Excuse me. My next public speaker is Teresa Cash from Deltaville.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon. I'm Teresa Cash. I'm new to the area. In Deltaville, we live on Lovers Lane. Lovers Lane is one road in and one road out. There's about 20 people in there that have golf carts. And now 2 people in the neighborhood have complained about the golf carts. So trying to represent the 20 people that would sign and whatever that needs to be done. We're here just to ask for guidance and help us. Who do we talk to? Where do I go? What is necessary to hopefully help these people to still be able to ride across the little Lover's Lane to their neighbor or down to the dock. Some of those people are on canes. Some of those people that we've met is not some of them, but almost all of them are related to each other except for us. But there's 2 people, like we said, that have complained about the golf carts. And I can understand because golf carts are supposed to be 16 years of age and valid license in the state of Virginia. But and I have seen several children, but the majority of the people there are beyond and above able to drive a golf cart. So I don't know what the guidance is or where we're to go. This is the first time we've ever been to a meeting. So we appreciate help since we're the new kids on the block, they say. I think we got the blunt of the story. So just want to help out.
Thank you. And any concerns you can put in writing or call Mr. County Administrator, Mr. Walker, and he'll direct you where you need to go or direct us to where we need.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Ricardi, you got anybody else?
No, thank you. I've got no other public speakers.
Does anybody else would like to speak? Seeing none, hearing none, I will close the public comment section. All righty. Items 3C, ERP update. Ms. Ricardi.
The purpose of this agenda item today is to update the board on where we are on the ERP process. As you recall, the ERP, the Enterprise Resource Planning, is a software that will integrate all of our core business practices. We're currently using something called Bright. Bright we probably purchased in the late 80s. And we all agreed that it might be time to bring something more modern into the community. To that end, the board helped us hire a company called Barry Dunn, and you can see them at the top of your screen. They are here. At this time, I'd like to introduce probably Ross. Ross DeFall is there. Jonathan Grace is here, and Kate is here. Kate, you guys just moved around, but we deal with Ross and Kate and Jonathan on a regular basis, but I think Ross is going to give us a brief update of how we got to where we are, and then we'll try to update you to where we are. If it's okay, Ross, you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. It's nice to meet the board. Thank you so much for your time. So we started in January 2025 with a project kickoff with our evaluation committee, which included Anne-Marie, Karen Murray from schools, Kevin Gentry, May Diggs, and Tracy Wright. That's been our project management team and evaluation committee through this process. In February, we came on site. Our Barry Dunn consulting team came on site and performed fact-finding activities, which led to the release of an RFP for ERP software that was released in April. In June, the RFP was closed. The county did receive 9 responses. And then over the summer, right? So from July, August, and then into September, we started scoring vendors. The first round of scoring was the evaluation committee reviewing vendor written responses. We narrowed vendors down to 3 to bring on site for demonstrations. We reviewed those demonstrations in August, and in September, the evaluation team, currently the evaluation team came to 2 preferred vendors, which is why we are in front of you today. So Anne Marie, that's a brief background of how we got here. Is that okay? Would you like me to hand it back over to you?
No, that is a perfect start. Again, we want to make sure that our board knows how long that Barry Dunn's been working with us, holding our hands. We hold meetings every Friday at 9 o'clock. Is it 9 o'clock? And Ross and I meet every Friday at 8:45, 15 minutes early. So we've been meeting all along. And then as a group, we've also had other meetings. I think you all remember me telling you, we had 5 or 6 consecutive days from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. meeting with the vendors, hearing their presentations. So this has been a very long process. And I do need to at this point be sure to, aside from giving credit to Ross and Kate specifically, Jonathan, for being there holding our hands, because we did not know what we're doing. We did not know what we were jumping into. And it was way bigger than anything I could have imagined. But then around the room, you'll see right now in the back of the room, we've got May and Tracy and Karen. And of course, we've got Kevin here, because it is this important to all of us that we want to make sure that we're representing. This ended up being big, and it ended up being good. I think that Mr. Harris and Mr. Williams were extremely assertive about getting this done. I don't think you all could have imagined, number one, what a great experience this has been. It's been a lot of work, but it's been a great experience. I had no idea how great this is going to be, what I was going to see. So to that end, and I'm going to say it all the way across, it has been very interesting. We're not to the point, we're not bringing a contract to you today. I'm bringing to you information so you know that our next step in this process is to start contract negotiations. Ross, Kate, and Jonathan will be helping us develop contracts along with, did I mention this to Heather? Along with Heather, our county attorney, we'll be developing a contract with our vendors so that we can bring forth to you to discuss. But we have 2 softwares that are going to be recommended that are desired to complement each other. Based on the system capabilities, we are recommending with the best of breed approach, and that is for that picks the best of everything. The financial software was kind of easy. That's an Edmunds. There were about 4 or 5 companies that do that very well for the needs that we all saw and what we required. When we saw Edmunds, we just had a great, that's the one. We saw, you looked at others and said, that's good, but that's not the one. We saw Edmunds and we saw the one. Avinity does tax and revenue. That's all they do. They do tax and revenue in the in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's all they do. Everyone who recommended them said basically, wow. And that complements the Edmunds. So Edmunds would be financials, payroll, permitting and purchasing. Then Avinity would meld into that for tax and revenue. This approach should provide great flexibility. It's going to improve so much functionality. I wish I could express to you what I heard from May's team after they saw Avinity. Because, did you want to talk, May, before I speak for you? You want me to keep going? Okay, I'll keep going. Because May was coming into this a little bit kicking and screaming with the big no, because she likes Sprite. So is her team. Y'all agree? Y'all were going to be the hardest sell. They saw Avinity, and all of a sudden they were like, I think it was Carrie was in there saying, wait, does it do this too? You could sense a total, wait, we can do something better for our people. We can do something better for our customers. We can show things better. And in fact, I believe they said you will collect revenues better. There was more to it than just the front end or the public end that sees, or the end that they see. It actually will enhance their productivity. So I don't want to oversell because we're not at that point yet, but that's what we were seeing. What we'd like to do next is, number one, we'd like to have each of those, that sounds like a big deal, admins and Avenity, show you in 10 minutes, next board meeting, give you a brief overview so you can see, maybe get the excitement that we got. I wasn't expecting to feel as excited as I am about it, but we'd like to show you what they have. And then, let's see, did I say that? Yeah, about 10 minutes each. So you can see what type of improvement. Maybe I should even screenshot some of what we're currently doing so you'd see the difference. And then come up with the contracts for these. As you can see in the spreadsheet on page 38 and 39, the option 2 that Edmonds proposed has a $155,000 one-time cost, $55,000 a year annual cost. Their one-time cost does not include tax and revenue. The Avenity does have a higher one-time cost because it is so unique. Like I said, once you see it, you'll be, oh, I see why this is. They specialize in tax and revenues for your community. How do you do it? And then their annual subscription costs are $115,000. So these are items that would have to start being budgeted. Part of it, we'd start as soon as you all give us the go-ahead. We have some of that put in the budget this year. But the rest of it is going to be budgeted over the next years. And then the 55,000, 115, that's going to be an ongoing cost. As I see it, there is no more wiggle room. You always ask us to sharpen our pencils. We asked them to sharpen their pencils once. And that's the numbers that we got. And I believe Avenity says we just can't, there's nothing more we can do with these figures. Is there anything, Karen, Tracy, did you two want to throw anything else out there? Am I slaughtering it all by myself just fine? Okay, Kevin, did you want to add anything? So to that end, what I wanted to do is make sure that you, the board, knew where we were, how excited we were, and what the next steps were. And find out if you had any questions, concerns, comments.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Questions? Might be premature, but I got 2, or maybe 1.5. Does not the Edmund option have the ability to do payroll as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Edmonds does payroll, yes. So we've got Edmonds for financials, payroll, permitting, and purchasing. That part's easy. Yep. And Avenity does tax and revenue.
Okay, let me do better on my question then. Why would we look at 2 vendors versus 1 vendor?
Right. I think what you were asking was, doesn't Edmonds also do tax and revenue?
Yes.
That was what you were, yeah, I was started after I heard that, I thought that's what you were trying to say. Edmonds does, but it does it to the level we are now. So it doesn't make any improvements. And in fact, as we watched the demos, specifically the screens are too complicated for daily operations. It's as if Edmonds is made for financial software. I mean, and it is. It is a perfect financial software. It is not a perfect tax software. So that was why we said, let's go with best of breed. It is, when you see the demos, you'll see what I'm saying, but that is why it does, but it doesn't do it well.
Any other questions?
You said you had 2.
I'm gonna just keep it to 1, and I'm gonna see the presentation, and then I'll add to that. How about that?
Okay, I'm looking at you, Ross. This will be possible, right? To have the 10-minute briefings, right? Oh, Kate's saying yes.
Yep, and it's one thing, Amory, now that the board's on board with that, I will start to work on scheduling those immediately. Okay, for the next presentation, I'll reach out to both vendors.
Thank you. Okay. Start over. We appreciate you, the board, for having the foresight on this, because I think you clearly you thought ahead of me on this one.
Wonderful. Any other comments, questions? Thank you. We'll look forward to that presentation at a later date. Okay, moving right along. General Assembly update, item D, Delegate Keith Hodges. Welcome, sir.
Supervisors, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Get on the road and do this each and every year, visit the boards and town councils, kind of give you an update and just talk. And believe me, those of you that know me, I don't mind talking. Mr. Chairman, how long do I have, or can I talk?
Well, I have you for, I have you for 20 minutes and I'm gonna hold you tight on that.
Thank you, Adam. And I always start by saying thank you to each and every one of you. Local government could never do it. It's much more personal, where the rubber hits the road, and decisions you make are far more difficult than what we do in Richmond. But I do want to just say thank you to each and every one of you and your staff and Mr. Walker. Of course, General Assembly session in 2025, I can say it started out different. Every session is totally different. And this one was definitely different. And if you remember, what was the problem? We had water in Richmond. So it was very interesting. We were held up starting late. And then, of course, they didn't really want to catch up on some meetings and so forth. So kind of set us back a little bit. But overall, we were able to get some things done in Richmond. And there, as always, there were about 3,500 bills and resolutions that were introduced during the session. One thing that did concern me is a number of bills not even receiving a hearing. And that does concern me. One thing I believe is every bill that's introduced, whether it's here in Congress, should be heard. Any amendment should be germane to the intent of the original bill. And everyone that's serving, in the state or in Congress should be someone that works and has a real job and be cleansed by the people, as Thomas Jefferson said. You did those three things, I think Washington would be a lot better off. So of course, the number one thing we always have to deal with is the budget. Even though it was not a budget year, we're always working with the budget. It's a 2-year biannual budget. So it's a living, breathing document with looking at the revenues and what you spent and come together and make budget amendments as well. Of course, no budget is perfect. And this is no different, but I do believe that this budget that we passed, I think overall the good outweighs the bad. It puts more money into people's pockets, puts more money into education, and it puts more money and invests in Virginia's economy, and it does not raise taxes. So, of course, a couple of things that we did. We made $4.2 billion in new investments, including education, healthcare, and infrastructure. And then at the end, we were able to retain $900 million to cushion against the potential economic risks of what may happen in life. Because that's something that, there's always a concern there. But actually, the governor came back in our budget and made 37 vetoes, primarily on college campuses and universities with capital projects. Hold on to that $900 million. But most importantly, we were able to give some money back to the people. A $200 rebate for individual tax filers, $400 for joint filers, $1.1 billion in the pockets of hardworking Virginians. Additionally, and really this is the most important part of it, we increased the standard deduction from $8,750 for single filers to $17,500 for married couples. Beginning of the 2025 tax year. I can't remember, we actually have to go back and readdress that, but I'm sure it will stay. But long term, that's what's going to put money to the pockets of hardworking Virginians. I think overall it was balanced, it was responsible, and I think overall we made some good choices. One thing we did, we made a significant investment in our public schools, and we're looking at public schools. We have the folks here with us today. Since the pandemic, I believe we've increased our per pupil spending by like 53%, I believe, somewhere around there. Made a significant investment in support personnel, putting more monies in our system, and hopefully better able to educate our children. Education is a top priority. It's a huge investment in Virginia, and one we need to continue to work on. We put some money into getting back from our learning loss from the pandemic. Primarily, a lot of that was in evidence-based math teaching materials.
And I mean, I can go on like that, but, you know, some of the things we didn't address, the number one hated tax in Virginia is the car tax, of course. People don't like it, but I will tell you, if and when we do something in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the localities have to remain whole. That's the only way it will ever work. And when I say whole, 100% whole, that is the only way it will ever work. But that's something that we'll continue to talk about and continue to work on. Of course, public safety, a lot of that is non-negotiable with me. One thing I'd really like to bring up with that is that, you know, the enhanced earned incentives credits. I'm not a proponent of that. And, you know, criminals need to stay in jail and dealers need to be held accountable for what happens on the street. You know, I've talked to a number of folks with overdoses of loved ones, and at the end of the day, those dealers need to be held accountable. Of course, you know, one thing I'd like to talk about is this. I think it's the downfall of society. No one can, I mean, I grew up on a party line. And but we got things done. I knew when I had to get home, heard my dad's whistle. We didn't track our kids, and you know, one thing I truly believe, it's that personal responsibility. And kids need to grow up learning that. And even today's world, they grow up with these, they can't make a decision unless they call and text or email someone, and they're addicted to it. I carried legislation 2 years ago. I usually carry enough. My girls usually say I'm loud enough. But thank you. But, you know, it's a major problem. It's causing major mental health problems. And of course, I tried to carry legislation a couple of years ago to deal with it. It was shot down. We were able to get legislation through this year. Is very similar to the one that I carried, limiting social media use under 16 years old to 1 hour unless you have parental consent. Then, of course, we have the bell-to-bell law. So when that first bell rings to the dismissal, cell phones are not to be used. And that came down through executive order. But I will tell you, Middlesex County was the leader on that and made a big difference. And actually, Governor Youngkin brought Susan Fleet to the state of the Commonwealth just to talk about that, because, you know, he personally heard about the great things that were going on here in Middlesex County with that. And it is making a difference. I'm hearing from our schools that it truly is making a difference. One thing, and of course, Mr. Walker and I talk about this quite a bit, is, you know, local authority preservation. It's very important for the state to come in and take over certain programs without local control or local authority. You just can't do that, especially chairing counties, cities and towns. And one of the number one problems that I have to deal with in General Assembly is educating the urban areas about the rural areas and understand us, how we live, how our economy works, our opportunities, you know, and our struggles that we have. But not only there, but also educating other rural areas, because, you know, the state we really have 4 distinct rural areas. We have the Valley with advanced manufacturing. We have Southwest with the coal. We have the tobacco region with the Tobacco Commission. Then you have rural coastal Virginia, Middle Peninsula, Northern Neck, and Eastern Shore. And when you take all of the federal and state economic development programs and lay them on a map, they're available everywhere, but we're left out, totally left out, because 76% of our workforce drives out of the district each and every day. We're considered fully employed, but the money is made somewhere else, and we don't have that tax base and the business tax base we need for our local governments. So we're left out. So we need to really look at that a little bit differently. Of course, you know, we mentioned solar earlier. There was a push this year to take away local control on solar. We were finally able to get the delegate that introduced that to pull that bill, because it is not a one size fits all at all. Of course, you've heard probably quite a bit about accessory dwelling units and taking local control with that. When you're looking at setbacks, giving people the ability to, you know, build on their property, and the state saying which, you know, the localities have no control as far as zoning and the issues. That's a problem, because you are the ones that should be making the decision, not the state. We're not Northern Virginia. We're not Hampton Roads. You know, you're here in Middlesex County. So you're the ones that should be making those decisions. Of course, everyone talks about the big, beautiful bill. I'll just mention it very briefly. Not sure exactly what's going to happen with that. There's still a lot of unknowns. Don't know if the sky's falling yet or not, but I think there are quite a bit of unknowns. Of course, they said we're going to lose 32,000 jobs, I believe, now. I think there are 10,000 that have been gone, and we were expected to have a $250 million deficit at the state. So far, we've had a $1.7 billion revenue surplus, and it's expected to be more. So Virginia's economy is actually very strong and should be able to absorb much of this if anything ever happens. But we still need to be prepared. There are a number of concerns, but there are some things that are positive out of it. I've been working over the last few days on the rural health transformational grant funding for rural Virginia and healthcare opportunities where we can actually make a difference. It's actually states are eligible for up to $1 billion in rural healthcare. And when I start to look at the statistics between some of our urban areas where they have access to healthcare, they have the programs, and it's very complicated. In some instances, the life expectancy in those areas is 20 years difference versus our rural areas. So this is available to rural states, and depending on the programs that we developed, been working with some groups, and of course, with the healthcare background, I've submitted quite a few suggestions, so we're working on that. Of course, healthcare is one of our, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but healthcare is also our #1 employer in the Middle Peninsula. So we need to invest in that because there's some things that people look at when they move to an area, when they live in an area where they want to raise their children. Healthcare, schools, fire EMS. That's what they're really looking at. Of course, I mentioned, Virginia's economy is strong. We had the $1.7 billion surplus. Primarily, a lot of that is in withholding taxes to create that surplus. But I will tell you, we're going to go into it this coming year and serving on appropriations. I'm sure we'll once again have a very conservative approach on how we spend our money and to not increase taxes and put some dollars back in your pocket. One thing I really always like to talk to are things that happen here. My #1 priority is representing the Middle Peninsula, the 68th district. Jobs and economic development. We talked about the 76% outflow of workers, but when the people are here between 9 to 5, we actually have the lowest wages in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We do 9 to 5, lower than Southwest Virginia. How do we change that? How do we keep our children here? I grew up next to my grandparents, and my friends grew up next to their parents. My parents and my best friend's parents were all friends. We're losing that. And how do we keep our children here? At least give them an opportunity to make that decision to stay. It's up to them in the long run, but at least give them the opportunity. So we need to look at jobs that fit in with who we are. And some people think I'm a little bit crazy sometimes, but that Lego facility, Rolls-Royce plant, whatever it may be, it doesn't fit in with who we are. It would change us, and we don't want that. But let's look at some things that actually fit in. Of course, blue catfish is taking off. Some people thought I was absolutely crazy bringing that up. Everyone had studied it for long enough. When you start to get up the rivers towards Tappahannock, it's 75% of the fish biomass, and they eat everything from shad to rockfish to herring. They eat enough peanut bunkers, as I called them, the small menhaden, every year, where they spend most of their life in the upper reaches of the river. They prevent 1 million tons from reaching adult size and entering the Chesapeake Bay each year. Omega pulls at 58,000 tons. That's a big difference. They eat enough blue crabs in an area of the James River. I think it's 2 to 3 million crabs a year in a 5-mile stretch. I have a picture of one about this long. It has about 23 crabs in it. So it's the #1 threat to the bay. They're catching them right out here like crazy. And they've become more saltwater tolerant. The state record now is about 140 pounds. So how do we, that's a negative. So how do we turn that around? And of course, created the blue catfish flash freeze processing and to get dollars into watermen's pockets. I created that in the General Assembly. Originally wanted 400,000, got it increased. Well, it went back to 250,000. We've had 1 grant awarded here in the Middle Peninsula. This past year, I was able to increase that to 500,000. I'm going to ask for more because we need more money to do that, creating jobs, creating businesses. I'm actually working with prison systems now for inmates to be able to process. It helps with recidivism, workforce development. Sell it to other states and their prisons and send it to our schools and get rid of a problem. But it also helps our watermen and our seafood industry as well. Of course, healthcare is number one employer in our district. Actually, when you look at employers, healthcare is number one, Walmart's number two, the paper mill's number three. I think Cannon and Fulcrum are both in there. Then after that, it's service sector, grocery stores and some lumber yards. So we need to invest in healthcare, start earlier, educating our children. And that's part of some of the programs I brought up in the Rural Health Transformation Program, to start healthcare opportunities in our schools at an earlier age, to give them the opportunity to stay here. Was able to create a sonography program at RCC because there was a need within our hospitals. It's been a great program and one of their number one programs now and doing very, very well. Of course, you know, the flooding and resiliency, we have problems with that all across the district, and, you know, of course, representing 1,000 miles of shoreline. It's destroying your tax base, you know, with these eroding properties. And we were able to actually quite a few things from many different ways to be able to address that. Of course, I changed the Living Shorelines Bill a couple of years ago to bring down the cost of living shorelines, which can run up to $650 a linear foot. It can bring those costs down in some cases by 80%. And because of that legislation, we have 39 companies that want to do business in Virginia, 19 of those here in the Middle Peninsula. And we're looking at establishing I would call it a resiliency industrial park, where those businesses can come together, they can collaborate, they can solve problems. You're looking at scientists, engineers, contractors solving the problem for the Middle Peninsula, Virginia, and for the world. We've even taken, of course, down Deltaville, especially with dredging. We were able to take the $8 million I got into the Virginia Waterway Maintenance Fund, get that moved over to VMRC to make it easier to get those dollars to dredge those creeks, because the federal government used to dredge, they no longer do it. And because, you know, earmarks went away. So we need to find the dollars to be able to do it. So we're looking at starting our own municipal dredge program here in the Middle Peninsula to address this. The problem that you run into, and even though I streamlined the dredging regulations, you got to find a place to put it. So you're dealing with the Corps of Engineers to try to find a way to where to put that dredge material. So we now have a company that's part of one of those 19 companies that wants to locate here that can take that material and turn it into an aggregate material, very much like concrete. You can also use it in living shorelines. Oysters will strike on it 100-to-1 over granite, which is typically used in living shorelines. So we're working very hard in getting that project going. We're get these creeks dredge ready so we can get that done. But what we're able to prove is, for every 1 foot change in the negative depth when these creeks fill in, for every 1 foot change, there's a 14% decrease in property value along that. So we can fix this problem. It's going to help the tax base. We're solving a problem. We're also creating jobs out of it and able to, you know, to build living shorelines in the long run. Of course, you know, pharmacies and pharmacy deserts across the Commonwealth is a big problem. Pharmacies are closing up because of reimbursements. So we're studying that in the Joint Commission. I have some ideas around ERISA out of a lawsuit to be able to address that in the upcoming session. And so be prepared for that. That's something not as much here in Middlesex, but when you look around the state, you have people that are having to drive 40 to 50 miles just to get to a pharmacy. So I'm really working on that. I'm not going to get into all the payments and things, but thing is I'm constantly trying to think up things. So was this, I guess, what's today? Tuesday, I guess Sunday night we had the late football game. No, it was, yeah, Sunday night, late football game. I had finished a project. I'm watching it. And you've heard me talk about Phragmites. Are y'all all familiar with Phragmites? The invasive grass that no one likes. It's a big problem, big problem. How do we turn that into an industry? And in doing the research, you can actually take the Phragmites and turn it into a biomass material, the fuel pellets that you see, and sell it. There's equipment that you can drive across the marshes. The cushions, they're pretty cool to look at. They just go right over the marsh. You can't even tell they were there. You harvest it, you put it in a hopper, you spit out the fuel pellets, you can sell it for biomass. Now, in starting to look at that, the nitrogen and phosphorus that Phragmites sucks up more than anything else, I think, out there. But guess what? It dies, it goes back in there. So if you harvest it, you're pulling out the nitrogen, you're pulling out the phosphorus, and then you take and you sell it as a biomass material. And you remove it out of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And something I'm starting to work on now is how do we stitch the credits together, very much like I did with the forestry and the carbon credits, and to get it out of the watershed. So when I started to do the research and the amount of energy that harvesting 1,000 acres of Phragmites and the energy it can produce, it's enough to power 2,000 homes a year. And think about the thousands and thousands and thousands of acres we have here in the Middle Peninsula. And then you're solving a problem. You can actually make money off of it. And thus started to look at these wastewater treatment facilities in our urban areas that are having to pay tremendous amount of money to get the nitrogen, phosphorus. Sometimes they're paying $40 a pound to get rid of it out of the waste treatment facilities. So we're just expect more on that as we move forward. And of course, septic, I've talked to some folks yesterday about that. We have 2 prototype systems here in the Middle Peninsula that I was able to fund through the General Assembly to design, study, maintain these systems so VDH can purchase them. I mean, VDH can actually permit them, sorry. And they're totally above ground. All of the treatment is above ground. You get it out of harm's way, out of the flooded areas where typically now when you have to fix these septic systems, you go into that RPA area. You talk about a lot of money and a lot of headaches, where the locality now, all you will really need is pretty much a variance to get that through. So it's protecting property values, solving a problem. We're working now on getting the nitrogen and phosphorus down to a level to where no nitrogen or phosphorus is actually going into the bay as well. That's a game changer. To get a system like that down to about the cost of a conventional system, that's a game changer in an area where we're known as the land of failed septic systems on the East Coast. Of course, Coleman Bridge was a big deal. We got the tolls off of that. We have a number of folks that use that bridge each and every day. And then the Norris Bridge, that was a huge deal to get that done. Of course, I passed the critical infrastructure bill in 2019 to be able to launch that, and then work with the secretary on this to be able to get it through and co-sponsor Senator McDougal's legislation to get that done. So we're finally, that's what, 8 years ahead of schedule, I believe. So we didn't even think we would ever get it done. So that was a tremendous feat to be able to really pull that off. And of course, what it does is I believe it allows 200 million in revenue bonds up to $1 billion, I believe, for a total of $200 billion. Of course, we're having some issues with FEMA. And I think, Mr. Walker, you've heard about that, and I'm still working on this, where FEMA actually comes in and audits the locality on their floodplain ordinance. And part of what FEMA basically comes in and says, show me the permits for any disturbance in the floodplain. So we had one area where a VDOT bridge was built. Well, it's not the locality's responsibility to issue those permits, but the locality is responsible. FEMA is saying the locality is responsible for overseeing the issuance of any and all permits in that activity. If you put a shovel in the ground, if you have broadband, if there's a culvert pipe that the state does, FEMA can ding the locality. And guess what? They ding you once, kind of get a warning. They ding you twice. Guess what? They may come in and increase the flood insurance to everyone in that locality across the board. So we're working with FEMA now. Actually got an email from DCR. I've been working with DCR, and finally, we're going to have some public comment on what we call the RAD process to give guidance to local governments. You know, we've been working on that for quite a while, but finally I got that yesterday to be able to have for a DCR to at least give guidance to localities what they can, they can't do, and to create the model ordinances, because localities, they were throwing their hands up in the air, had no earthly idea what to do. Of course, permitting is a big problem with our, let's say, VMRC and those areas. So I'm continuing to work on that, to streamline that process. And I will say, and I'll say it publicly, VIMS is a scientific advisor to the Commonwealth on flooding and resiliency, but I will say they're not the expert. They don't have the soil scientists. They don't have the engineers. They don't have those folks to give VIMS to give VMRC the guidance that's properly needed. So I'm had some legislation and oh my gosh, it blew up, but I'm still continuing to work on that to be able to streamline that. Of course, the DMV Select program is very important to our localities. A number of them are closing down because they were costing our localities. So I was able to get budget language in for DMV to do a review of the cost benefit, do a cost benefit analysis for our localities and for the state, because that's important out here in our rural areas. It's very important in our rural areas that we keep that going. Of course, the number one thing that actually drives me crazy is bureaucracy. We pass laws in the Commonwealth. We expect certain things to be done. And then once it goes down the chain and they implement the regs, and then how those regulations are interpreted and people hold you up, that's what really kind of gets under my skin a little bit, because that wasn't the intent of the initial law. We've even had bureaucrats try to derail things that we're working on behind the scenes with some of the non-government organizations, which doesn't sit well with me, but I'm very nice in how I approach it. I'm usually one of the nice guys up there, but we've got to learn to get along and we need to understand each other and to solve the problems, because that really, I look at it as my job in the General Assembly to solve problems and to look out for the people here. So with that, I can keep talking. That was very quick and I skipped over a lot of stuff, but thank you all so much and appreciate everything y'all are doing.
Thank you for being here today and updating us on what's going on. And yeah, I know you have a busy plate of what you're working on. And I'll just say, we want to be number one on your list.
Well, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I look at it, appreciate, Middlesex County, but I look at everyone, I look at it holistically as the entire Middle Peninsula being number one.
I know.
Then I drill down from there. Because this district actually, unlike many in the state, it does make sense. We're between the two rivers, our economies and our challenges and opportunities are all very similar. And we're really getting our localities to start to work together very well on many of these issues. So
We can see that as well. And we're working with quite a few other counties as well. So thank you for being here today. We appreciate it. And don't stay a stranger.
Mr. Chairman,
thank you.
I'd like to say something a minute.
Sure.
Appreciate all that you have done. And I would just like to say one thing. If you do the math, if you do away with a car tax, all right, that's some revenue that's not gonna come in. You got to get it from somewhere else. So
Right.
something else gonna have to go up.
That's right.
And I just wanted to just, say that, how's that gonna work? I mean.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, that's what I was saying. If we do away with the local level, we've got to find a way to make that up somehow at the state level and to be able to make it work. So, me, I'm going to try to navigate through a problem and try to solve it. I remember the head of DEQ saying one time it can't be solved. He said, good luck. And we solved it. I said, don't ever tell me that, but we'll find a way to make it work. But the localities have to be whole. And just like I didn't even bring up the composite index. We've been working on that for a while. And that's tough on you. It's tough on you, but if we make any changes, guess what? They're going to be 50% winners and 50% losers across Commonwealth. So we've got to find a way to make it work. So it's actually equal, and it's a tough job. That's why we haven't been able to get anywhere with it, but because they're going to be 50% winners and 50% losers. But thank you, really, for everything. Always a pleasure.
Before you go, I got one question. It's about real estate. That we've been living in a time now that home values, whether they're being overpaid or not. And I always been told you're gonna have to go to the top level for them to do anything with it. We find individuals paying money for homes now, whether it's worth that or not. $500,000, 700,000, and they're buying them in areas, they're coming to Middlesex County. Then we talk like we're gonna do a reassessment to make it right. And I don't know how this thing gonna work, because what is the value of something that if you go out and pay for this real estate, you come to Middlesex County and you might move to somewhere else. So if you set, and this we know it's factual and we're not doing anything about it. we see, you pull the Sentinel out and look at some of the real estate taxes on homes that is being bought and being purchased. The first thing you wonder is where they're at. But people are paying this money. Yet we haven't tried, from what I can see, to grab a hold onto it. I had one question about the thing. If you pay $1 million for something and you buy a home, and you know what the taxes would be on if it was $1 million home that you paid for because it's real estate. But yet you could go to a locality and look at the real estate taxes on that home, and it might be $500,000. Now, because people can get just about any value they want, if you got it and I want it, guess what? I'm gonna get it. And that's the kind of thing we have. Now we're saying by reassessments, we're gonna make it right. And I told the guy, because we get our property reassessed, the county's getting it right now. And I simply told him, and anybody else, you're not gonna get it right. Because what you're gonna do is people that have retired and the income, if they could fix that in my lifetime, I could fix it pretty easy because I would just put the tax on. You paid for it, you buy it, and everything will be balanced. But look how many jobs that we'd be doing away with if we done something like that. So all of a sudden, all the reassessments and stuff, where would it be at? I think Brother Bill was talking about a percentage. Say if you can get it right, percentage would be the way to go. But it's looked like it's an area that nobody want to tackle.
Sure. And thank you, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Many localities have tried and really to assess at the current market value, which I believe is the way it's supposed to be now with General Assembly. It's supposed to be current market value. The problem is to do that, and if you do that, there are going to be some winners, there are going to be some losers, and that's the biggest challenge, and how to answer to the constituents and the people you represent when you've assessed it at that value. And part of the problem, it goes back to the composite index. We have this waterfront land where people are purchasing it. They're making their money in the urban areas. They're buying it up, either weekend cottages or they're retiring here. It's driving up those home prices. But yet with those real estate values, and what are we now at free and reduced lunches, probably 60% or so. So in an area where you have those property values, but yet we have 50-60% free and reduced lunch. It doesn't make sense. And we're kind of in a land that it just doesn't fit. And at some point, I do believe we've got to get back to assessing the property at its current market value and basing your real estate property taxes on that. It's going to be a struggle. And it's a struggle if you do it. It's a struggle if you don't do it. But at some point, we've got to come together, and each locality has to come together on their own to be able to kind of solve that. And the thing is with, as far as taxation, you're limited on what you can do. You can do real estate taxes, personal property taxes, car tax, and that's about it. So you've got to make yourself whole as well. But it's tough. It's tough. We can't tell someone that, all right, you can't buy that home for $1 million. It's only going to be $700,000. So who takes the hit? The one that owns that house that was looking for that maybe to retire. So it's a challenge. I wish I knew the answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I look at it, and I look at it a little bit simpler than what you are, because I'm saying that if you pay for it, you know what the tax and the tax rate is, but they're the ones who controlling it. So we can't make a decision based on it, because you're paying 62% on $1,000, whatever it is, and I overpay for a house and the bank lent me the money for it because I got it, then it's not a big problem. Because if a person know that this is what this house is valued at, then that's what they pay. Different from car taxes itself.
Sure.
Car taxes, all of them maybe should be the same thing, but that's that's a horse for another race.
And so we're looking at purchasing or what you're looking at is basing taxes off what the purchase was. Yeah. The problem is you have, how many pieces of land have been in the family for generations that's worth that much, and they don't want to sell it because, it might be heirs property with a number of owners. When they could sell it for $1 million, but this guy bought a place over here for $1 million. What do you do? Because we have a number of people that are, I would say, land rich and cash poor. And that's the challenge, because the property may be worth tremendous amount of money over here. But generating the cash to pay those taxes is the challenge because it's purchased over here for a high price and it's driving up their property values. So it's that to me, that's the challenge. And because we have a number of and the same thing happens not only with taxes, it also happens with septic systems where you have heirs property where they've got to fix the septic system. Cousin Sally may live there. You have a number of people that are in ownership with it, but they don't want to pay the money to fix the septic system. So you got to fail septic system. So that affects your property value. So there's so many of these issues and it's a challenge. Wish I knew the answer.
All I'm asking is just for one, you pay for it, you pay taxes on it. So that's all I'm saying. You deal with the other stuff when you deal with it. We know the loopholes that if you got plenty of land, you put it in some type of state or whatever you want to do. It's designed for people that got land. Okay, that want to be able to keep the land. So the design is there, it's crossing the road that if it's there and you pay for it, and this is what it is, then I just see it as being a simple way when we sit in a room and also do something complicated when I know if I pay that price for that home and you got a house right beside me, I can't look at you and drive your value up because the value we do in a cluster. So we get all the houses up and you pull everybody's value up. When if they did it right, you wouldn't have to worry about everybody's value because that'd be the price you paid. And all these reassessment, the bank is going to loan you what you got anyway because they did it for years. They're going to loan some of the money. And some of them, they're not gonna lend the money, so, and that's the way it's been all my lifetime, over 7 years. That's the way I see it,
Mr. Cridden?
Yeah, I just want to say, Mr. Hodges, it was good to see you on that Danville trip.
Sure. Didn't even bring that up.
I was.
Got some ideas on that.
I was good because I was amazed at what they were doing up there, and I would certainly like to see something like that be brought to this part of the state.
In fact, it was great to be there, but of course, it gets my mind thinking in different ways.
Mhm.
To duplicate what they have won't work here because it creates a pipeline for industries that we don't have.
Right.
So they're just going to be moving and working away. I'm actually already have some ideas and in discussions with some things to do something similar.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like marine related trades, that sort of thing, something that we have places I know in this county that would love to hire people who are trained in those trades and they just can't get them. And so that would be a great thing for us to keep those kids here.
But thank you. What they've done, and y'all are going to talk about it in a little bit, I'm sure, and what they do, but it's absolutely incredible. Of course, they had money. But when looking at that, I think in the two counties, when I talked to the director, just in those two counties over the last few years, 8,000 jobs were created in those two counties. Heck, I'm looking for 80 jobs and I'd be happy. Seriously, we'd be happy with 80 jobs. And that would be one of our top employers in the entire district because we only have 38 employers with 50 or more people in 6 counties. And that's a big deal. So I'm looking at it in a kind of different way, using some of the components that they have, but also tying it in and doing the training and workforce development in some of these industries that we're looking to develop, many of which I didn't even talk about today, that fit in with who we are. Same model, but training them in different areas. So
Thank you.
glad to do it. That was a good day.
It was.
Thank you, Delegate Hodges. Appreciate you coming and we'll see you again.
Well, thank you. I'd love to stay. I've got to actually do the same thing, be down in Gloucester here in a little bit. So
Okay.
but
Thank you, sir.
y'all.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right, back on our agenda, the item 4, agency and staff reports. VDOT is a report only. Social Security is a report only. And school matters. Dr. Sykes, would you come forward just for a minute? I know there's no report here per se.
Yes, sir.
I think some of you were shown November 18th and 19th of the 2 dates that we're looking at.
So that's for a second work session.
That's
We have the
correct.
First, I say work session, maybe just a joint meeting between both boards where for the high school renovation.
That's on the 21st.
We have the joint board meetings next week, Tuesday, October 14th, 5 p.m., Middlesex High School.
Yes,
We will be prepared to feed you through half of that meeting also.
correct.
And I was gonna discuss that during my report, Mr. Chairman. We had an opportunity to get together, Dr. Seitz and I earlier. We can do it on the 19th. Water Authority is in this room on the 19th. We need to meet at their place.
Or you can meet on the 18th.
Okay,
It did appear that the 18th and 19th were both available. I was trying to avoid someone's birthday on the 18th, but that's,
okay. So is your group able to meet
it's his.
November?
November 18th and 19th. We decided in our committee meeting that after we had this first joint
Yeah.
meeting together, that we would likely need some time to kind of decompress, process, and then come back for a second work session, given that we've got the holidays coming up. We looked at the November calendar and had November 18th and 19th. And I just found out from Shanae this evening that the 18th and 19th works for the Board of Supervisors. It also works for the school board. So we really can make this decision right now on the 18th or 19th.
Mr. Chairman, the 19th will work. Chip was telling me it used to be on that Wednesday. Now it's not. So we can meet in here if we want to on the 19th.
Okay. The canvassing of your board, is it one date better or worse than the other?
No, both of those days worked, 18th
Okay.
or 19th. Mhm.
Does both those days work for you? I personally would prefer the 19th, for us to both to get together.
That works.
Okay,
We'll set that in stone then, the 19th, and I'll communicate that to the school board also.
does that work?
And that's for a
all you
second.
guys?
And what time is that going to be?
That will be at 5 p.m. also, and it sounds like we'll meet here.
Okay, 19th in here at 5, 19th of November.
Correct, because we already have October 14th as our first joint meeting, and that
Correct.
is at Middlesex High School.
Correct.
Starting at
5
5 p.m.
Mhm.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah, yeah, if 5 doesn't work. Mhm.
Does that work better for everybody? 6? Either one's fine with me.
I could be here close to 5. Give me the 5 if everyone wants to do that.
Doesn't matter to me, whichever. And I'm sure if our board's available at 5, they're available at 6. So
Okay. All right, we'll wait, for you and Matt to clean that up and decide.
the
And
5 or 6, okay.
yeah. Okay. Anything else for Dr. Seitz? Okay. Thank you for being here.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for being here as well. Okay. Item D, 4D, Airport Update, Mark Flynn and Richard Lewis, Comprehensive Agreement Amendment.
Yeah. Good afternoon, members of the board. You have before you a proposed amendment requested by Dell Corp. The change is that you'll recall that in the original negotiations, the board agreed to not require performance bonds and instead to just withhold payments for any of the work until everything was done. Well, I don't know how much actual progress has been made, a fair amount, I think.
The footing has been poured, the slab is in, they're removing the berm right now today. I was told building steel should show up on Friday.
Right. So, the work is being done. I'm not seeing any indication of problems from Delcorp's side. So Delcorp has come in and asked, and another part, the last time with the runway, the county didn't put in payment requests to the Department of Aviation, which is entitled to do, until the whole project was over and got the money. And then there was a little bit of a kerfuffle about the money going to Delcorp. Okay. So this normally what air counties do is as the work is done, they apply to the Department of Aviation for progress payments because the grant's been approved. The money is the county's, subject to just showing that the work is done. So this time, the first payment request has been submitted. It's it's less than $150,000, if I remember correctly. 137,000, yeah. So, so the request then is that instead of holding all the money to the end, that when the Department of Aviation reimburses the county for like this $137, the original agreement was, or the original proposal was that the county would withhold 20% of each reimbursement until the end, so that if there was some problem, that it could use that money to finish the project. And one member has requested that we make an amendment to that, change it. And so this is another way of getting at the same thing. And that proposal would be that on this first $137,000 reimbursement, Delcorp would get 100% of that. And then the county would withhold 25% of each subsequent payment request. I have not run the money to run the numbers to see how that comes out. It may not be a significant difference. I have a gut feel that it's not a significant difference. But anyway, as I understand it, Delcorp is amenable to either route that you all choose to go if you choose to make an amendment. You know, if it was, this is one of those things that is, if this was some contractor from Charlotte, North Carolina, that came up here and do a project, then I would really recommend against it. But given that that the owner of the corporation lives at the airport and has his own major project that will be great, that's the new hangars which are going to be bigger hangars, bigger aircraft and all of that, that he has such a strong incentive to make this work, because it would not be good for him to get into a fight with the county about not getting paid, or not getting the work done, that there's some, I would recommend to you all that you entertain an amendment like this one. So that's where we are. Right now on the table are two options. This one up here is that the county would just withhold 20% of each reimbursement request. And then the alternative, which I've given to Heather, and I do have hard copies here of the pages. They don't really, it just says the first payment request, he gets 100%. Every following one, we keep 25%. So those are the options. That's sort of where we are.
One thing that I haven't had a chance to talk to Mark about yet, but Mr. Barber talked to me yesterday and said, since the building steel is showing up on Friday, he was going to include that price in the first payment.
So that would go up.
So if we're talking about $400,000.
Yeah.
On that first payment.
It would not be subject to 25 if he
Yeah.
amends the first payment.
Yeah,
First payment request.
so we may want to.
So you might be better off.
That's the first time hearing of
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
I would recommend the board keep with the current drafted agreement.
So from the county's perspective, you might be better off with just the 20% on each one. But again, it's,
I would recommend we just stay with amendment as drafted in your packet, if that's the case.
Well, what I'm hearing here now is a percentage would hold back of what we get from the aviation.
yes, sir.
board. But I could have sworn I read something in about that Middlesex would be, their contribution would be a certain amount of, like a draw too as well.
Well, the way it works is that we agreed to, the county had already agreed that whatever the department provides, the Department of Aviation provides, that goes to Delcorp. And that the department, say it's the easy one is on the ramp and taxiway. That's 90% funding from the Department of Aviation. So under the agreement that's not being changed here, the county would have 5% would pay the 5% and Delcorp would eat the other 5%. On the terminal, it's a little different percentage because of the way the funding, but that's the way that works. Yeah.
Okay, the maximum contribution for Middlesex County is $250,000, correct?
Right.
And at one point in time, there was not going to be any draws off that 250 until the project was finished.
That
Correct.
he would, well, that he would not get any of the money, that Delcorp would not get any of the money. The county would have been free to do progress payment requests. But yeah, that's right.
Okay, and now we're looking at giving up. It's already done. That we're giving up the aviation money right away as the project proceeds.
I don't know, sir. I don't think so. Well, yeah, giving it up in the sense that it goes to Delcorp within 30
Directly
days.
rather than us
Okay.
holding it till the end
I'm
of the
sorry, you mean
project.
we pass it through. Yes, sir.
Right, okay. So
Yeah.
the original agreement then was what we got from the aviation would go direct through us and directly to Delcorp as the project went along and
At
as
the,
it
at the
received
end,
payments.
the original agreement was. that-
Okay, at the end, right.
Yes.
That's what I was, okay. So now what we're looking at is whatever money we get from the aviation goes through the county and directly to Delcorp, 100% of whatever we receive.
I'd actually no. The
Okay.
amendment that you have, the one that's up here, is that he gets 80% of each of the reimbursement requests. And the county withholds 20% until the very end, until there's a certificate of occupancy for the building and substantial completion.
And that
for the-
same philosophy would also be utilized for the $250,000 max contribution the county would be liable for.
It does not change that. And in this amendment, it confirms that it's still 250 max.
But will that 250 remain with the county until after the project's completed? When the COs are issued, then that's the only time any of that $250,000 will be tapped.
Well, the 250,000 is actually only a maximum exposure for the county in this whole project.
Okay,
So if somehow it became a $5 million project, then the county's maximum exposure would be 250,000. That's the part.
and originally, we would only get into that $250,000 once the project was complete or COs issued. Now, are we looking at diving into that $250,000 sooner on this project?
Well, no, I'm sorry, the 250 is a different issue. That's the amount, that's the maximum amount the county will have to pay for this whole project regardless. But until as the project goes along, if you all say accept this amendment, then as is a normal thing for an airport project, or any project really, the contractor submits a payment request. We review, the county reviews it, ultimately signed off, submitted to the Department of Aviation. The Department of Aviation reviews it and might, they might want to talk about some numbers, but they end up stroking a check to the county. And so then what this amendment says is when we get that, say it's a $400,000 check, then the county would turn around and write what is that, $320,000 check to Delcorp and would hold the 80,000.
So Mark, I think I'm gonna jump in real quick. So the question, I'm hearing you, that's two separate issues, but if I may, I think the question the board has, and Mr. Harris is trying to articulate is, when does the county have to contribute that 250? I know it's not going to be a lump sum of 250,000, but can you walk the board through?
Sure.
So I've submitted a payment
Well-
request, right? I'm Oscar. I've submitted the
So
payment
it's-
request, came back. When does the county have to stroke a check?
Right. So the county doesn't have to spend any money. As these progress payments go along, the money just gets, the 80% gets sent to Delcorp. The county is holding the 20. And then when the project is completed, the Department of Aviation has said, that's all the money you're getting. Then, and Delcorp has provided a certificate of occupancy and substantial completion on the ramp and taxiway. Then it's the county's obligation to release that money, the 20% withheld, to Delcorp. And then let's say that there was $400,000 on the project that the Department of Aviation did not fund at all.
But was correctly built and was
So it's all
appropriate. Yeah.
correctly built.
Yep.
And by the way, I have a little language in this amendment that if the Department of Aviation rejects anything, the county has no responsibility for paying for any work that it does. That's just a little side you know, in case we got gold faucets or something. And not that we are, I mean, you know that,
But so
but
we're back.
nonetheless,
Yeah.
it's just a little parachute I have in there. So anyway, there's $400,000 that the Department of Aviation for this project that's all good, properly owed, that the Department of Aviation is not going to pay for. Then the county share would be $200,000 of that. That the county would have to pay Delcorp, and then the rest Delcorp has to pay. So, but then if it
But
was,
that process that you just described would not happen until after substantial completion, CO,
Yes,
and
sir.
so forth and so on.
yes, sir. And let's say it was $800,000 that the department didn't pay because it got really, really expensive. Under this amendment and under the agreement, the county's obligation would only be $250,000, not 400.
So let's turn it down and say that they didn't fund 100,000. What would the counties?
50. Yeah. So it's the county is on the hook for 50% of what the department doesn't pay until it hits a ceiling of 250, county's obligation ends.
Thank you for that clarification, Mark.
Any other questions?
Just seems like to me, we would have, if we're not gonna have a bond, the way it was set up gave some protection to Middlesex County. Now we're going back to where we're basically doing draws on completion, but we're gonna hold Middlesex money until the end for sure. They might get Delcorp can get some aviation money instead of us holding all that back, but they're not gonna get any Middlesex money until COs are issued.
Exactly. Yes, sir. And then the department's money is the lion's share of the funding on this thing.
Any other questions? County Attorney, are you good with the agreement?
She like
I know what you like.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's a bit of a loaded question. So how about this? I believe that it's in an appropriate legal format. I have reviewed it. I do not have any issues with the wording or the formatting as presented by Mr. Flynn. I think the question for the board is how much do you want to hold back, or do you even want to do this amendment? Those are my questions I have for y'all. But no, sir, I don't have any further changes to his document.
Any other
Yes,
questions?
Mr. Harris is correct.
Okay. A motion would be in order to approve, and I guess it's 2025-001. No? Okay. Is there a motion to change the amendment that we have with, or the resolution from the original to this revised one?
Maybe a different way to say that is the first question is, well, there's two questions. Do you wish to make this amendment? And if so, it appears there's a question on how much you would withhold. Are you going to withhold 20% as Mr. Flynn is prepared and it's before you in your packet right now on the payments? Or are you going to give Mr. Barber the first payment in its entirety, the $400,000 approximately, and then the second payment would be a withhold of $25,000? I understand there's two different things here.
25%.
25%.
I did not have all that information when I talked
Oh, okay.
with Mr. Flynn there. So given that figure, I would withdraw that. I didn't do any research or anything with
Yeah.
that figure, okay?
So,
Without a-
okay, so it sounds like we're back to the original proposal, Mr. Flynn, as written. So it would be, if it's the board's desire, Mr. Flynn, you weigh in if I get the motion wrong. The board, a motion would be appropriate to adopt resolution R 2025-011. This is a resolution authorizing amendment number 2 to the comprehensive agreement dated June 4th, 2024 between Middlesex County and Delaware Corp. As presented in the board's packet.
Ask one more question. It looks like because of the work is progressing and we're getting things done and there's some material coming now, whatever, which is good. There's going to be a, lack of a better term, I guess now we say a draw requested for around $400,000. If the Department of Aviation sends a check for 190, what happens?
That's only it.
Yeah.
Totally it.
If they, I mean, actually, I think that the check would be for 400.
Okay.
And then they'll withhold at the back end. I think that's what they'll do. But, so if it's for 400, they'll write a check for 400 to the county. And then the county's obligation is to send a check for 80% of that within 30 days to Delcor.
You say the first draw was 100%. Then after the first draw, it's 80%.
The first, no, sir, with this amendment that you have before you, it's the county with only turns over 80% of each draw to Delcor.
Okay.
And keeps 20% of each draw
And
of each payment
I will have to pay when the project will have to be complete.
at the end. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that resolution 2025-011 be approved.
Mr. Crittenden has made the recommendation, the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Crittenden, second by Mr. Williams. Any other discussion? Before I call roll call on that, you and I have had this discussion. I'm not sure if you and I have. I think we have. We don't like surprises, number one, and it'll be awful tough for us to amend any other agreement coming forward. We're all clear on that.
Yes, sir.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Crittenden,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Don Harris.
Yes, motion is approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. And if I may, if you'll give me just a moment.
I
when
will.
Delegate Hodges is here. You know, I've worked with him. I lobby for the Virginia Municipal League. Been doing that for years and worked with him since the day he came in the house. Really love him. I was going to hope to kid him about the fact that, you know, all these areas that he has to work in. I mean, it's pretty intense, a lot of work, but the pay is good. It's $17,000 a year.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, moving right along. ARM resource update, Mr. Bob Hunley. Welcome, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, I introduced Bob to the board. He's been with us, I think it's been about 8 months ago, maybe earlier. Resource International, I will always know them by that. It's ARM Group now. They are our engineer that handles our groundwater and air monitoring at the landfill. And in light of some of the concerns addressed by the community, Mr. Major in particular, regarding the solar project, I felt it was a good opportunity to have him come and give the board an update and maybe answer questions about vinyl chloride and other things along that nature to allay any concerns potentially that the public and or the board may have. Bob, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Mr. Chair, members of the board, as mentioned before, I am Bob Hunley with ARM Group. We are formerly Resource International and have been working with the county for many years. I've put together this presentation to walk us through where we are with respect to post-closure care monitoring of the landfill. So the goals, I always like to talk about how do we exit post-closure care. We exit post-closure care by solving two problems, and that is groundwater monitoring issues and landfill gas issues. We've had a lot of success with respect to landfill gas at this facility over the years. We have had some blips on the radar where landfill gas has popped up in high readings recently, and I think I responded last time around by telling you what we had done to try and address landfill gas, and I think there will be some photographs in here as well. Groundwater is something that we have to monitor by regulation per the DEQ groundwater requirements that are in the solid waste management regulations. We do monitor groundwater on a semi-annual basis. Typically, we monitor groundwater in June, and then we come back and monitor it in December. We have to put together reports at the end of each of those sampling events. And then the annual report is produced and given to the Department of Environmental Quality each year to update them on the status of groundwater monitoring. If we go to the next slide, please. So this, this map is showing you a few things here that I'd like to point out. The blue lines are lines of potentiometric surface. Those lines show you what the elevation of the groundwater is. Thank you. What the elevation of the groundwater is at each of those locations. And so they are, for lack of a better word, they are contour lines for groundwater. So that's what the darker, thicker blue lines are. And the general progression of those lines, as you might expect, works its way towards the water body, which we call the receiving water body down at the bottom of the map. And those red clouded areas are surface water monitoring points that we collect samples from each time we do a groundwater monitoring sampling event. The red box that you see there in the bottom right-hand side is the area where we still have a problem. That is the only area where we are still seeing problems emanating from the landfill. We've talked about before solid waste and its biodegradation process. It degrades over a long period of time. The final constituent that it degrades to is vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride, as mentioned before, is a volatile organic compound, which means that when it's exposed to oxygen, it vaporizes. That red square or red rectangle represents where we still have a well where we're getting results with vinyl chloride that is not at the groundwater protection standard level yet. As has been mentioned, the readings there, did you have a question, sir?
I did.
Yes, sir.
So you say that one's not exactly where it needs to be. Over how many sites? Testing sites.
So we have, I believe, 16 wells total that we sample throughout the landfill. So one other piece of explanation is you have to sample by regulation one upgradient well, which theoretically, if it's upgradient, it means that it's not affected by the landfill. So we have one well that's very close to the northern boundary, northern property boundary, which is the upgradient well. Those results are compared to the downgradient wells, which are down further as you move to the south towards the water body throughout the landfill. And so, yes, that is the only area where we're still seeing the vinyl chloride above groundwater protection standards. And as I mentioned before,
How many wells are in that area?
How many are in
box? How many wells?
How many wells are in the box? I believe I just boxed in the one that we're still sampling there. That's just that is NES 2R, I believe, which is the well that we are still having the vinyl chloride issue at. And if we go to the next slide, I think that will show the vinyl chloride results over time. Or maybe not. Okay. So yes, so NES 2R, which is what was in that red rectangle. We can go back to the other one. Yeah. NES 2R is the only remaining constituent, only remaining well with the vinyl chloride detection. And then I think I mentioned those other 2 points. And what I wanted to point out was that the last time I was here, we had done a sampling event in June, as I mentioned, which is our typical frequency. We don't get the results back immediately from the laboratory. So the graph that I showed at that point would have only included the results from the December sampling event, did not include the June event. So some of the things that we talked about at the last meeting about potential remediation efforts that we could try to accelerate the degradation of vinyl chloride. Some of those were discussed, but we said, okay, let's see what the results come back on the June event and, see if it makes sense to wait before we do any of those higher cost, maybe faster remediation. There's never a silver bullet that if you do this, it's going to go down immediately. So if we go to the next slide, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. So at the last meeting, we were talking about that spike that had come in December of 24. And so, what we showed then was a fairly level trend line. It was no real trend up or down. It was kind of middle of the road. What we've seen since then, since the June 24 result, the June 24 result came way down. The December 24 result was a little higher. Then the June 25 result has gone down again. So we definitely see a trend downward. The green line represents the groundwater protection standard. So as has been mentioned before, we are not down below the groundwater protection standard. The good news is that, as I mentioned before, this is a normal part of the solid waste biodegradation process. Vinyl chloride is the tail end of the degrading process for these for solid waste. And the good piece about it is that in all of those surface water sampling areas, we've never detected any problems. We've never detected any vinyl chloride. We did have one hit on toluene once, but it was below the groundwater protection standard. So we have never seen anything in the receiving water body that would indicate that we've got a problem leaving the site. As I mentioned before, those blue lines of potentiometric contours, those are showing you how groundwater is flowing, and it eventually gets to the creek. The same thing happens on the other side of the creek. They typically, it pretty much follows topography. Occasionally, it's a little different. So if the topography is running down to the creek, then the high point for the groundwater is going to be furthest away from the creek. So we look at things like this and say, okay, are we getting any hits in the receiving water body? No, we have not. Are there wells in the area that could be affected by this? If there are no hits in the surface water, then that's a good sign. The well that we sample as part of your regulatory requirement is Mr. Lackey's well, which again is up gradient of the landfill. So his well should not be affected by anything happening in the landfill because all of that material is working its way toward the creek. So potentiometric lines help us see where do we look for areas of receptors, where do we look for areas that need to be protected. So this is a good sign that we're seeing a downward trend since the last report in July of 24. We are hopeful that over time, those points are going to go closer and closer to the green line. We do still have the option or opportunity to implement the remediation efforts that we talked about last time, if the board so chooses to move in that direction. And I think I would maybe pause for any questions about groundwater because I'm going to go on to gas after this.
Your readings, is there any relationship to drought? Because seeing me taking them in June is
Yes, sir. That's a great question. So drought and weather conditions do affect the overall potentiometric surface in the ground that we monitor. That's why we sample the water elevation at each well. Some years when there is a very long period of drought, we do have a hard time obtaining enough water from a well to get a qualified sampling result. Sometimes when a drought is occurring, we will have a hard time limiting the amount of soil particles that are in the water sample. They refer to that as turbidity. And if the turbidity is too high, that can affect the results of the sample. It can sometimes give you a higher spike in metals. But fortunately, in this sampling event, we did not see any area that needed to be resampled. If we ever see a problem where it looks like something's out of line with previous data, we go back and take another sample. But you're right, the drought conditions can affect the sampling that you perform.
So if you're not able to get a proper sample, you just wait till December, or do you come back after a rainy period, or
Right.
how does that work?
So the department has pretty strict requirements on how long you have to take samples. They require that you take them 6 months apart. But if you are in a verifiable drought condition where you cannot get a sample, then they take that into account when they're evaluating your results. But yes, you're pretty much at Mother Nature
So,
beck and call.
so if we're giving a drought and there's not enough water in the wells to take a sample, and then we wait months and we get back to normal rainfall, and now we have enough water in the wells to accommodate a sample, it seems to me that that water is leaching through there pretty quickly.
I'm not sure I follow the question.
I'm saying that in June, we don't have enough water to get a viable sample in the well.
You're saying
It's a drought.
hypothetically.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So in 60 days, we've had significant rainfall.
Mhm.
And now there is enough water in the well to be able to take a sample. It just seems to me that that water is leaching down through there fairly quickly.
Well, you have to remember that the water that's in these wells is not just coming from what falls on the landfill. It's being affected by the entire drainage area. So when we put these things together, we come up with a drainage area map, and it might, depending on what the drainage patterns are for this area, it could be affected by a large number of acres.
Do you happen to know how many feet of cover that's on the landfill?
Yes, the cover is approximately 4 feet total. So we have 2 feet of protective cover, then there was 18 inches of clay, and then another 6 inches of vegetative layer. So it's 4 feet before we get to the original solid waste deposition.
So in your experience, how far would it be safe to set a post, let's just say, in there? Can we set a post 2 foot deep? Or would that be a no-no?
Generally, the department prefers that people do not penetrate the cap with any sort of penetrations. So if, for any sort of work that's typically done on a landfill, they like to see something that's ballasted as opposed to penetrating posts and those.
So they didn't want to see a post a foot in the ground then?
Not really. No, because when you put something in the ground on a landfill cap, you're basically creating a preferential pathway for anything. Did you have a question, sir?
No, actually, that just kind of answered what I was gonna ask myself.
Yes, sir.
What kind of disturbance you could create there that would not cause a problem? If you wanted to construct something on there that obviously it's going to require some sort of a footing, some sort of a post. And so if that would affect the VOCs or whatever that are going to be coming through.
Right. Wherever we've seen systems placed on closed landfills, we've typically seen ballasted systems where they're not using penetrations. They're using ballasts to hold things down. And so they're not using penetrations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just noticed when we viewed one in Albemarle County up in Chelan, and they pour cement. They pour cement on top, put the poles in the cement. And yeah, then balance it out. That's what they do. It's thick cement. And
Even the fence, right,
yeah,
Wayne?
even the fence. Yeah, everything that's on there is in cement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's
And,
on top
yeah.
of the ground.
Just letting you know, yeah, everything was in cement. So really, and up there, I think they had like a 6 foot cover over it. But
They added more
yeah,
filters.
but see, ours been covered over a little while ago because when I was on the board, they had post closing and supposed to stop charging the county for all this stuff, and then they changed the rate, and it's been going on a long time.
Yes, sir.
And costing the county a lot of money.
Right.
So, I'm just looking at, if you pour cement on there and maybe generate some revenue, maybe we can get some of this money back we've been paying for over 20-some years when a lot of the board members are gone. And when I was on there, and they post-closed it early, just to
Right.
say, stop doing this.
Right.
And they just kept moving. It just kept moving a target on there.
Right.
But anyway, come a long way since then,
Yes, sir.
and we're still paying.
So the project that we glanced at, I'll say, or whatever, that would be something along what Wayne's talking about, they're not proposing penetration?
Yes, sir. So the way, and I'm going to ask Mr. Hunley to weigh in as well, but when we toured the Dominion facility up in Albemarle County, everything was ballast, and I was shocked, even the fences. I thought the fence posts would at least be in the ground. They are not. But both proposals received on the county project was a ballast system. Simply put, gentlemen, if these companies cause damage to our landfill, 9 times out of 10, they're financially responsible for that cleanup. And so there is a huge incentive, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Those companies don't want to do that because obviously the landfill is a very sensitive area. And so that's what's so innovative about this and what's so exciting, because it was not that many years ago that we could not even consider this. But now I understand DEQ even has guidance on it.
Yes.
And so I'm going to let Mr. I think your firm has actually worked on a few of these. We've talked about it multiple times, but everything is above the cap. And at the Dominion project, Wayne, didn't they say they've added like an extra 6 feet of fill dirt to ensure that they had even more? So we're still at the very early stages. But it is a very sensitive area. We want to be mindful of that because we know the landfill it's delicate, to say the least. But what has been your experience with these projects? I mean, I understand them to be ballast. I believe that's what DEQ recommends.
Right. Definitely, they don't want penetrations. So the ballasted systems are typically what they prefer. And frankly, that's the sort of thing they do whenever they have a situation where they don't want a penetration, even if they're talking about like a flat roof. I've been to a school situation where they put them on the top of schools that have a flat roof, the old tar roofs or the membrane roofs, and they'll ballast those as well. So there's not any sort of penetration of the roof, which is typical in the residential installations, more typical in residential, where they actually penetrate the roof. But yes, the DEQ has come up with a permit by rule process for these sorts of things. So they have encouraged, the post-closure use of facilities like this because they're a brownfield and they don't have much use for anything else.
I think like Wayne brought up, the county's been spending a lot of money trying to get this thing closed, we say 20-some years. If, do you see anything where these ballast type systems will interfere with our trying to get the thing closed?
No, sir. I think if we are talking about continuing on the path we're on, which is using the monitored natural attenuation, meaning that you're going to continue sampling until you get to below the GPS, the groundwater protection standard for that constituent. If we're going to continue that route, that's not an issue. The other piece of it is if you wanted to try and accelerate the degradation of vinyl chloride at that particular well, and you wanted to take a drill rig over there and do an injection, you're off of the landfill cap now. You're not in the area that was used for solid waste disposal. So you're not in an area, you would be basically in a virgin area of the site. So the only counsel I would give on something like that would be to say, with older sites like this, where they've been here for a very long time. I would say we would probably want to do an exploratory boring just to make sure that we're not finding anything that might be outside of what we think the limits of disposal are. That's the only caution I would give. But we've obviously installed these wells at this location, and we didn't find anything when those wells were installed. So we don't have any expectation to find anything there if we were to try the accelerated route. But again, the results we've had since July of 24 seem to be heading in the right direction, albeit not at the level that we need them to be before we can petition the state. As has been mentioned before, properly and correctly, we have to be 3 years at or below the GPS before we can get out of groundwater monitoring with the state.
Yeah, I got a question. I mean, well, to me, if you go down and try to accelerate this, now you're stirring up some more stuff in my mind. I'm just letting you know.
Sure.
So I think you just let nature take its course, in my opinion. I'm no expert on it. I'm just doing some common sense.
There's no guarantee that
Yeah,
it
and
will
then there's no guarantee.
accelerate to a point
But
that
my
the
opinion
return
is
on investment.
with the cap and everything, and you got something on top of it that's not degrading or messing anything that's groundwater. I mean, you know, and I wouldn't want to have something on there, and I'm saying that it'll mess the groundwater and kill everything.
Right.
That's not happening.
Right.
So if you're way up here, and then they put a cover over top of that and put that balance system in there, you're not harming it. You got grass growing on top of that.
Right.
I mean, I'm just looking at the best way to do this without harming the environment.
Right.
So from your chart, I'm guessing the next testing will be sometime in December?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
You're right.
And from when you send those samples off, I must have missed it in your discussion. I know you said it's not a quick process, but typically.
It's typically a 10-day turnaround. So if we
Oh,
sample,
okay.
it's
We can live
not
with
terribly long.
Okay. And once that testing is done, I assume that you'll catch up with Mr. Walker or Anne Marie to give those results out?
Yes, sir.
Because we'd like to see those as quickly
Absolutely.
as possible. This is just a general question. I don't know that it's right or wrong, but based on your experience with two questions. One, with landfills having solar placed on them. From a general concept, has that created any problems that you'd like to enlighten us about?
Well, I think number one, there haven't been a whole lot of them used in that capacity. I think you've mentioned the one that I'm very familiar with, which is the Ivy landfill up around Albemarle County. There have been a few others. I think the ballasted system is definitely the way to go. I don't think you should, take any chances with penetrations of any kind, because that eliminates any sort of second guessing. So as long as you're staying above the cap, then you're not doing anything differently than any of the other activities that we perform out at the site on an annual basis.
And is your firm also involved with any other county or municipal or whatever in the conversion or the dual application of solar and closing a landfill? Are y'all represent anybody currently with that?
I'm not sure if we do currently, but we helped install one of the largest solar sites up in Maryland back, I think probably 10 or 15 years ago. So yes, we have a pretty good familiarity with that sort of work.
Okay, and me being maybe not as informed as maybe Mr. Jesse, is what's going on here in Middlesex, particularly from the closure of that site. And I know the size of the site and what was put in it or not put in it. I think all of those probably contribute to to something, but is it normal for us to be so long in getting this
Yes, sir.
site closed? And what's your opinion of why that's taken so long?
Right. You're exactly right. It all depends on what was put in it. And a lot of it depends on the soil types in a particular area. You're much further east than many counties, so you're in a much sandier soil stratum that has a tendency to allow things to move, quicker through the soils. All of those sorts of things play into how long something is going to take. We did have success in Goochland County. Of course, again, they're west of 95, so they're in the Piedmont. Lot of different soil strata there, a lot of clay. We did have success there petitioning to have them taken out of groundwater monitoring after a certain time, but again, theirs had been at least 20 to 25 years. So it's not atypical for the situation that you find yourselves from what we've seen.
Okay, you've lent me to one other question.
Sure.
With sand being a prevalent part of the land and whatnot around here, to me, layman's view, sand would result in quicker movement, I would think, of materials coming through that,
Right.
through the process.
Right.
I can understand a clay bottom being maybe a stretched out longer period of time. It's somewhat disappointing that with stuff that can flow through this, chemicals, water, whatever, quicker.
Yeah.
That, again, why are we still 20 years later
Right.
in this process of closing the landfill? You want to elaborate on that, or best guess?
My best guess could be, the type of material that was placed there over time. If there was a lot of hydraulic oil or any sort of, oil changes, that sort of thing. If you've got hydrocarbons, typically, they are a lot longer in the soil than maybe metals, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
Question.
On that question, more of a comment. Several years ago, when Resource was here, they had recommended that we pursue on maybe another cluster of monitoring wells off property. We would love the opportunity to work with some of the property owners south of the Beaver Pond, which the Beaver Pond's roughly at that lower surface.
Yes, pretty much right below that.
Right below that red box,
rectangle,
yeah. The sooner we can get those monitoring wells in, we can provide a good baseline of what it is now. And then monitor that along with everything else, along with our ongoing groundwater monitoring after the solar project's done, if it's done. But I think those monitoring wells would give us a much better picture of what's going on groundwater wise. And if we could find a willing property owner that is concerned about it, we can maybe get one in relatively quickly. They're not that expensive to put in.
Right.
And the more data we have, the better. Because we felt like if we could give the state better data, that could help make the case on the groundwater monitoring. We just got to prove that we're not seeing the results. And
Okay.
those extra monitoring wells would do
Is
that.
that information you would need to coordinate with this group or not?
It's not that much. If we could find a willing property owner, I could probably
It's not
find that
that
in the
much, doesn't
existing
mean a
budget.
whole lot to me, because my
Yeah.
wife said it's not that much.
It's not that much. Was it
I
like
disagree with
13,000
her
for a
on-
monitoring well last time
I
we
think
put
it's
one?
less than that.
It's less than that. So we
Really?
Less than
probably,
what? I didn't hear the number.
To
Yeah.
drill it, it's anywhere from 2 to 5.
Right?
yeah, we could probably find that within the existing budget if we had the property owner
Okay.
that would work with us, get a easement or some such.
Okay.
Yep. I'm not trying to put any property owners on
All
the
the
spot,
Hoffman
but I'd
wells and
love to
stuff.
talk to you.
Think
after the
about it,
meeting.
you got a lot of other chemicals that are out there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's
I know.
because I love my farmers, but farmers do the no-till. There's a lot of chemicals in there and they don't have to go by DEQ. Think about that. And people say a lot of different things, but I'm gonna tell you, you can't even get your creases out the garden like you used to a long time ago when I was young. They put the no kill, they put the special seeds, and they kill everything, and they don't plow. So there's a lot of chemicals that are going everywhere else. So y'all can put all the wells down, great, wherever you want, but you're gonna get a lot of other things too. So think about that when you talk about putting wells on other people's property. You're gonna find more things that you don't want to find.
And these are being
And,
in the
then-
woods.
and then you gotta figure out where is that coming from?
Yeah.
Is it coming definitely
These wells will
from
be
there?
in the woods. We
Well-
kind of had them scoped out.
And we're just talking about generalities here right now.
Yeah, I don't want to monitor on any farms, but these are out in the woods.
Some,
Where the water goes.
Yeah,
into the
yeah, yeah.
stream.
I
All the
know.
water goes into the stream, the low spot. I don't care what farm it is. It's gonna
Okay.
go to the low spot.
well,
That's just common sense. When you get a big rain,
yeah, I know.
that water's going to the stream into your river.
All right, well, we'll put our heads together and.
Well, we
talk
don't
about
have a willing property owner, so it's moot now.
Well,
But
at this
I
point,
wanted to bring that up because I know we kind of went hat in hand a few years ago to try to find one because that was one single way we could expedite getting out from underground water monitoring is give them better data. In order to give them better data, we had to have better wells. And the way that groundwater is moving, having a monitor well further down by that red box was the number one recommendation I think we got from Resort. And that being
Right.
said, that's all I had.
Cause I've seen right here on that red box, many years ago, that red box was falling. So, and then, it's coming on down.
Right.
And now you got it right there on the end of this whole, landfill.
Yeah, I think
we
we drilled one as close as we could.
Right.
Right.
There's still more to your presentation. Shall we move
so-
on to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
go
you.
ahead, I'm sorry.
No worries. So just to remind you on landfill gas, we have been successful in dealing with the issues we've been having at GP4 and GP3. Those are gas probes that we monitor on a quarterly basis. I believe there are approximately 10 of those, 10 or 12 of those that we monitor. Those are just the two that we had the most issues with. So what we found was that we felt like gas was escaping under the landfill through a sand layer and getting to GP4 and GP3. So if you go to the next slide, we installed these gas vent wells. I think it just skipped over. That's all right. So we installed these gas vent wells that intercepted the gas in that sand layer. They have been very successful. We have not seen any gas at GP3 or 4 since we installed these. So that has been a very successful venture and a fairly low cost. And then those are the pictures of the vent wells in action. So they're basically venting anything that comes their way before it gets to the probes. And I believe that was the last thing I had, or those are just results. It's all zeros.
While the closure process is
Yes,
going
sir.
on, are we have to maintain it being mowed to a certain height or anything like that?
Yes, sir. The DEQ prefers that you do it no fewer than twice a year, but they don't require it more than that.
Can we plant pretty much whatever kind of coverage you want on it? I'm not talking about putting in loblolly pines, but I am talking about, whatever type of.
You can definitely do wildflowers, sort of things that reseed themselves. They don't want trees. But pretty much any sort of ground cover vegetation can be used.
We were thinking wildflower.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Mr. Hunley, as we go forward on this, if the project goes forward, your firm, as I understand, in speaking, Dominion's going to reach out to you to ask you to be a part of discussions and things like that. Is that, you said you worked on the Ivy one.
I know about the Ivy one and I was involved when they were first talking to Dominion about that. Yes.
Okay.
So yes, we're definitely available for that.
So I'm assuming, as we go through, if we move forward with this process, we can utilize your expertise to review and guide the county to make sure, because the county doesn't want to be financially responsible for causing harm either.
Right.
And to give us I'm assuming you'll be willing to do that, to give us that guidance through that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I know I call you quite a bit. So,
Any other questions? Thank you, sir, for being here today. We'll probably, what? Yeah, good job. And we'll certainly want to pull from your expertise as we continue to look at this project and move forward.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, we've been requested for a quick break, so let's do a bathroom break and take a 5-minute break. All right, no problem. Or phone break. I'm fine, thank you. You have Dawn Harris and Ann Harris scheduled for Saluda on the 9th. Is that correct? You had called me about confirming that date. Okay. No, I'm assuming Derek's coming. He's the one that typically opens and closes it, along with another guy. I can't remember his name. But no, there's nothing special. And you show it for the 9th, is that correct?
Here you start. Where's you start?
I with my name, was saying,
Yes.
Stuff I'm gonna see, I don't think my name. That's what I know, I got something.
Okay.
Pay for it? My goodness.
Say that again? No, just what, typically we just close it. I don't know if they put any chemicals in it or not when they close it, but, no, just closing it. I think will be fine. Could the person that's gonna come, can he give me a wake up call when he's on his way, et cetera? All right, and what phone number do you have for my contact? Okay, that'll be fine.
What do you look like? You might be wasting money.
Okay, and Derek still works for you guys, correct? Okay, just curious. Okay, that's no problem. All right, thank you. You too, bye-bye. I don't know, Kevin. You know, I didn't say something. You won't know. You gonna get it from me? That's the one that's down. Yeah, I can do it. Huh? I think this is very good lunch. All right, can do that. I'll show you.
I would like.
Well, you gotta go. No.
I must pick it out. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We'll get rid of her.
All right, who we waiting on? Where did Matt go?
Oh, that's. Yes. Oh, there it goes. That's to me. Hold them on.
You just snapped it. Oh, okay.
Well, I thought.
Good here.
Okay, we're coming out of recess now. And with that, we're going to move right into agenda item 4F, asset management, RFP for agricultural, or excuse me, architectural and engineer professional services update.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could set this up a little bit. Y'all had asked several months ago for us to do something like this, and we were lucky enough to have a young man that had the skill set to pull it off. He's been working with Chip. That young man now is working with Kevin in IT part-time.
Great. Mr. England.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. Just a couple of brief updates. The first, as you mentioned, is on asset management. We did work with the intern. I worked directly with him this summer to basically build out our inventory, begin to build out our inventory of our assets in our facilities across the county. We settled on using the platform that we already have, MaintainX. It had about 120, 130 assets in it already. We built, we did inventories at over 60 facilities to add to that and add more information to what we have in our database on each of the assets, physical assets for the county. We got that, as you can see in the board paper on that left side, total assets up to 844. So I think we're probably about 95% on assets is where he was able to get to this summer. So we certainly tried to focus on the priority facilities and make sure we got their assets. So the ones that are missing would be rounding that out. So this gives us a couple of different avenues, I think, to build upon. On the regular day-to-day, week-to-week maintenance, we have the inventory in our system, and we can begin to record work that occurs against those assets, right? So we're beginning to build a history and have some data that way. So that helps the facility side, Anne-Marie and the facility side day-to-day. But also we can pull this up out of the database, this information, and begin to analyze it a little bit as we start to do more strategic planning and budget planning in the capital side, as well as operational planning for how we spend our money and do it on the assets that are most priority and most critical. When we built the information into the database, we also built several fields into the database where we could assign the location priority, the asset criticality, and the condition of the asset. So we tried to rank those as well. That allowed us, when we pulled the database, pull the data out and manipulate the database, is to kind of calculate a condition score. So what's the worst assets that we have? That's what we're getting to here in this summary on the fourth quartile is probably the worst assets. So we're able to rank them based on an assessment score. What's the worst assets based on a combination of priority of the locality, priority of the asset, and condition of the asset. So we're going to try to pull up and just give you a brief, without getting too much into the weeds, what the database kind of looks like. But so bring it down here a little closer. Stanley, yeah, I think the summary dashboard, this just brings forward some of the items I try to include in your basic summary. So the number of assets we had, and then the different rankings and how they panned out. So the database, this was created as a tool that I can then use or work with county management to use as we're doing some planning. What are the worst assets? Where are they? Based on the condition and priorities that we've assigned. So we plan to use this tool as alongside of the work history on the assets to help drive that assigning of condition, as well as make justifications for where we're going to spend our money going forward and taking care of what we got. Basically the stuff we have in our buildings, the air handling units, the water heaters, everything to conditions of finishes and things like that too, as well. Roofs, everything was a distinct asset that was put in there. So we worked with Jack Giles over the summer as a part-timer with us 4 days a week, and he was totally dedicated to this project for a little over 2 months. I think we got a really good product here we can build upon. And as Matt alluded to, he's going to be back with us part-time too. We might continue to build this out as he has time. That's just a basic update for you. I don't have any action necessarily for this, but this is progress that we made over the summer.
Can I add though, I think that he also took pictures. So when I'm working in MaintainX, working on the assets, for example, somebody calls to say, we've got a problem at this air handler 1 or whatever. I can look at the picture. No, it wasn't that. It was the CAT generator. I had no idea what the CAT generator was. I was able to go in the system and find the serial number so we could get parts for it. It it was very appreciated.
Yeah,
So
pictures,
that's the type
nameplate
of work they
data,
did.
all that kind of stuff was categories.
And it's all in there.
I think this is one of the things that the board, and I appreciate it, and Matt assigning staff or whatever, and your work, Chip, and the board supporting hiring an intern and everything. I'm really thankful that you got on this and did it for Middlesex County. This is something I think we're really laxing. It's going to help with our budgeting. I mean, it's going to be where you look and you know that air handler on the roof is 25 years old, and the manufacturer says, hey, it's got a 30-year life expectancy. Eventually, this will be out to where you'll see in 2030, we're going to start budgeting some money for that. Now, if it's still working and you make a fresh assessment, then you can move it down the line a little bit. But it's a tool for our budgeting, for what we have going on. We have to manage our assets, and they come in all shapes and forms, just like this, just like Matt's looked at the timber. We have all kinds of different kinds of assets, but this is something that was really needed, and I really appreciate everyone, the board, staff, all of you for getting in and doing it, hiring an intern to help. Thank you all very much.
And Mr. Harris, just to build on that, obviously, we're dealing with limited resources and we got to make decisions. So
Yeah.
this really helps us with that when someone brings forward, a department brings forward a need to address an asset. We can kind of look at where that asset is in context of the big picture, right? So does it need to jump in priority with something else? So helps
What
us
is-
with limited resources being able to apply our resources.
Total assets with no score. What does that mean?
Well, that's part of the build out of the database that we're still trying to maybe work on. We haven't either given it a condition score yet.
Oh, okay. So
Or if
it's
for some
not
reason
particular.
it
Okay.
couldn't be calculated
Okay.
in this spreadsheet. So
Got you.
You basically try to take whoever's doing this the assessment, take an inventory, and hopefully they can determine a little bit like this thing looks like brand new because it's getting ready to fall apart now. And then you can get the serial numbers, as Anne Marie alluded to, get the manufacturer, how long is it supposed to last? When was it installed? What does one cost new? And it really eventually it becomes a spreadsheet on steroids, which is what it is. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
but it is a very good tool. A lot of
Mr.
things
Harris,
go
just
into it.
Yeah, to build on that question, those 70 are probably the ones we just probably couldn't get to as well. And we tried to get to the priority ones first. So
Yeah.
they're probably the ones that are at locations that maybe are not necessarily a high priority.
Good. Thank you.
What we're excited about, and this is something that we discussed during our last capital improvements plan, is a tool like this will help us feed into the capital improvements plan a little better. Like for instance, you'll see highlighted on your screen, historic courthouse, new courthouse. If I can scroll over just a little bit. If I'm reading the scores right, getting imminent with certain replacements needed, certain very expensive replacements, i.e. the HVAC system over at the new courthouse. This is something, it will cost a pretty penny to replace those systems, but this gives us a better planning tool to see how many more years left we have so we can build it into a more robust, more, I think, predictive capital improvements plan. So we can get ahead of it, stay ahead of it, and not have surprise, the boiler's down, you need to replace it, it's $100,000.
And whenever anything's replaced, it's on this list. It's up, the staff has to update it, so we get the life expectancy we should get out of that new product.
Quick question on where your cursor is in the middle of the page. You got Puller Center, Middlesex County Sheriff's Office and Middlesex County Sheriff's Office, doors and floor. And I guess if you go, Kevin, yeah, why does that show, am I looking at the right thing? It's now on the far right, all assets in third quarter. Puller Center, floor and doors. And then I think there's a percentage there, 33 point, but it looks like all of them are 33 point.
Yeah, the scores are going to be anywhere from 0 to 100, and they're
Right.
all kind of relative to each other. So you are getting down into the third quartile. So you're past the worst assets. You're into the next batch of worst assets. And the data, while it is probably our best swipe at it, it's not perfect. If we see something like that, and we think it's out of whack, we may need to go back in and relook at it and reevaluate the scoring that was given to it.
Well, I wouldn't see why we would need, why floors and doors
on that particular item. Hell, we got a new building sitting there and doors and floors were done. So I was just curious why that was showing that way.
Exactly.
You follow me?
It is something, it gets a fairly high score because the facility is fairly high scored. The location is a high score. It gives you a higher weight because that's a
I
facility
mean,
that.
I'm thinking, I'm reading you right, Don, you put in a brand new air conditioner, it's supposed to last 30 years. Got brand new doors, should be 100%. They're not even a few months, only a few months old. So it should be the highest rating. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 100 is the highest rating. So
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah, 100's the highest.
It's not a very high score, but it is within the second quarter of the high scores that we have.
Maybe it's because they were used doors or something.
Yeah,
They're
they're
used.
it may have been the used
But we didn't
doors.
use the
It may
floor.
be, I'd have to look at specifics, but.
Okay, it jumped out at me, so I figured I'd ask it.
Being involved with asset management and getting it kicked off and getting the inventory, it's difficult and you have to make some assumptions on things to get it down and get it going. But as we start to use it, as it starts to go forward, those things will get corrected and you'll see that it'll become more and more accurate as we use it and a greater tool.
I think you're exactly right, Mr. Harris. I think now's the time I'll be scrutinizing this as we're doing the capital improvement processing. And I may find things like that and we may need to make adjustments and make it better.
No problem. Continue on, Mr. Henry.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're done with this. The next item I had was bringing an update. This is something we brought to you earlier this summer about this initiative to put an RFP out to begin to work towards hiring under a term contract an A&E firm to partner with us, architectural and engineering firm update. So we put out an RFP on the street. We advertised it on July 16th. We closed that RFP request on September 11th, and we had 12 firms reply to us, which is a very good competitive proposal bid process. We've taken those, formed a staff committee internally that has reviewed each of those 12 proposals. That consisted of Matt, myself, Dave Kretz, and Sarah Murphy in the administrator's office. The four of us reviewed all of those, gave them scores and ranked them based on the criteria that we asked for in the RFP. And we've been able to kind of bring them down to what we call maybe a short list of higher ranking scores. That's about where we're at this point. The committee is recommending the next steps to move forward are to conduct interviews tentatively planned for October 30th with the top 6 offerers based on our scoring, just to take the next step in the RFP evaluation process. And then work with whoever is determined at that point to be at the top in a negotiation process to bring a contract back to the board eventually for a term services contract to hire an architect and engineer to work alongside us. So the next steps are working through that process. We need to give us several weeks for the firms that we would notify to prepare to come in and do a presentation and interview with us. So that's why we're waiting till October 30th to give them some time to do that. Should it be the pleasure of the board, if you wanted to name someone to work with the committee, a member or two, we'd be happy to bring you in at this point to help work in that direction. But it's certainly up to you. But what we're asking for is to continue with this process into our next steps and begin in that negotiation phase so we can eventually bring a contract back to the board for approval.
I do ask your committee there to look carefully if any of the engineering firms that we've had a rocky road with in the past, that we remember that when we're looking through this, see how we worked in the past.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we do look qualifications and experiences, certainly. And if they have experiences with us, we obviously have to weigh that in.
Mr. Chairman, one of the catalysts that it kind of drove this solicitation was the RCE building and an architect to help guide the board through their desires for reconstruction and renovation of that building. So just wanted to make sure y'all remembered that was one of the catalysts that drove the decision. And like Chip has said, if the board wants a couple of representatives of the board on that interview committee, we'd be happy to have you. It's going to be an all-day event, though. I'll say that because we got 6 very good candidates.
Yeah, in part, to build on what Matt's talking about, I think one of the things certainly we're going to be asking them to start to address is a hypothetical situation of a building like that. How would you help us partner alongside us to do a project like this? And we would want them to address that in their presentations and in their interviews and discussions with the next step that we would take with these firms to help us evaluate which one would be a best fit for us.
And is this process to have a architect and or engineer professional services as a retainer?
Essentially a term contract, yes. Then we would work from that point forward. Once we have a contract, upon our request for issuing a task order under that contract, we would sit down with that firm and talk about the scope involved with that project and what our expectations are. And they would bring back a proposal based on that task assignment that would be the next opportunity for the board to approve, approve a task under that contract.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, not asking for you to approve any spending at this point. That would come later as we begin to task this firm with things to do for us.
Okay, good.
So are you saying that we don't have to spend any money until we make our mind of what we're gonna do?
That's correct. Or we may partner with this firm to help us decide eventually what we're going to do, depending on how we want to phase that. It could be, for example, the RCE building could be helping us assist with evaluating options and alternatives, or talking with a stakeholder group to try to determine what we want to do with that building. And they bring expertise to the table with having done this for similar type facilities, for similar type communities in the past, and can give us some guidance on what is feasible for the facility, what the ballpark cost may be for the facility, so we can evaluate those alternatives that we may want, directions that we may want to go. So if you do it in a phased fashion, you do that first, you counter that, and then you get into preliminary design, into contractual designs afterwards.
Think, maybe just the definition of a professional service contract for everyone. I can do it if you want to do it. What it is you're basically doing a contract saying, I'm going to give you all my business in this area. Okay, we're looking at engineering services. And you're going to go into a professional service agreement with whatever organization they pick, and they're going to be there for you. It's not like you're just going out there and just hiring someone off the street or so on and so on. You're already in a partnership with them. And being how you're giving them all of your business, you're in hopes that, and it usually works out, that you're getting competitive pricing and stuff and everything on the work that you're doing, because you're a return customer, you're under contract. So it's a way to get professional services, and you're at the front of the list on them, because you've entered into something. And because you're going to do repeat business, we want to give you a good price. That's how I view professional service.
And just to add on that, Mr. Harris, usually when we get into the negotiation steps of a contract like this as well, we do start talking rates. They provide a rate sheet. It becomes binding once we get to the contract. We're asking for that at the next step as a non-binding step. So part of the evaluation of the next step would be at least looking at what the rates are proposed for entering into an agreement with us. So we go into a task assignment, we kind of can figure out based on what's on a contract for the costs for what they would do.
And Bay Design previously was engineering and survey.
This is a little broader. It's
Yes.
mainly more heavy on the architectural side with things like RCE in mind. When you're starting to talk, probably having a prime as the architect with the civil being under the architect.
I think some of these firms, if not all of them, probably have the capability of doing a lot of our engineering.
Correct.
For us.
It is pretty broad. So, Mr. Chair, if there's not any more questions, we just are asking for you to authorize the selection committee consisting of any board appointed members that you want to appoint, and the county administrator, the county attorney, and assigned staff to proceed in conducting with interviews with the offerers, with the select offerers that we've shortlisted, And then to proceed after that point to begin negotiations with the top selected firm or firms, if we decide to. And then bring back a contract to you at a future meeting. Right now, the earliest might be December. To
Okay.
Bring back a contract. So at the pleasure of the board, if you do want to select and appoint any members to work with us on the next steps, and then authorize us to go ahead with these next couple of steps, doing the interviews and then proceeding into negotiations.
Okay, do we need a motion for that, Ms. Attorney, or just consensus?
No, sir, you need a motion, but I would first ask, is there a board member who wishes to serve on it? Just as a clarification, I'm not able to attend the October 30th interviews. Not that that's, you've got a wonderful committee. But I mean, obviously I'll be involved in the contract negotiations, but are there any board members who wish to participate?
I would like to be on it. I'm not able to commit because of some other things going on right now, but I would like to be on it. So if there are two board members that want to be on it, I'm fine. If there's only one other one that wants to be on it, I will do my best to try to make the dates, but I cannot guarantee that I would.
Yeah, no, I understand, Mr. Harris. And there, you don't have to be on it. The question staff is presenting to you, do you wish to be a part of the interviews?
I don't want to, me not being able to 100% commit, I don't want to take a spot from another
Yep.
board member if there's two that want to be on it. If there's not, and I can make it, I will.
Wonderful. Well,
And you
we
can
will-
always grill that board member with questions that chooses to serve on it.
Anyone else?
I wouldn't mind being on it.
Okay,
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't
think
mind.
that's a
being-
good choice. So Mr. Williams will be on it.
Well, then I would make the motion to authorize the selection committee for the interview, make a motion to authorize the selection committee consisting of Mr. Williams and Mr. Bill Harris, assuming he can attend. I think we should go ahead and just add you. The county administrator and assigned staff to proceed with the interviews
You can get there.
for the architect and engineering professional services.
I so move on that motion.
So moved on the motion for Mr. Jesse,
Second,
second by Mr. Bill Harris. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Harris,
yes.
Mr. Crittenden,
Yes.
Mr. Don Harris.
Yes. Motion to proceed is approved.
And Mr. Chairman, before Chip leaves the podium, we did close the other RFP on the dredge site maintenance, dredge spoils site maintenance. We did not receive a proposal.
Right.
But we have that more robust agreement that, is being put out there for the contractors, but we did not receive a proposal. The spoils site
Removal of-
management. So, we can discuss that in November. If y'all want us to reissue it, we can. I think we've got a pretty good policy, a more robust policy. And we can operate under that until we get somebody.
Has there been any action by anybody removing product from there?
I don't think anybody's removed any
Not
yet.
that I'm aware of. I certainly haven't been contacted with anybody with a proposal yet to.
Okay, well, it seemed like there were a few people that were interested in getting some of the spoils.
I did have just one this week that I contacted the office and I sent them the policy, the procedures, and have not heard back yet.
Okay,
But, we have heard some talk of others, but that's the first that I've actually sent
okay.
the contract.
Well, maybe bring us up to date in November on where we are with that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, planning update, Dave Kretz.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have a quick, this is a quick update on the wake boat landing and the ramp. I've been going back and forth with the Corps on this. They've previously requested some additional information. I've become pen pals with Mr. Griffey with the Corps. Just this morning, there seems to be some concern. And the same concern was expressed by the VMRC rep, Randy Owen, when I spoke with him several months ago, which basically started initiating this, that we didn't think it was going to be so bad. But there's some restrictions that are germane to the dune area to the east
of that bulkhead. So the latest thing from the Corps is Mr. Griffey's concern was if we were removing the material from that dune, which we want to do, he was asking if they could barge, remove it by barge. It would make it simpler. Not on our end, because our contractors aren't going to mobilize a barge for that amount of material. They're probably not going to do that. So we're stuck with the dune. What their concern is the dreaded tiger beetle. So there could be some restrictions, and here's a component, because U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services has been furloughed. Mr. Griffey can't get an answer out of their department to get those restrictions to pass them on. I think he's hesitant to issue. That's not his call. So he's hesitant to say, yeah, go ahead. I think you're okay. He can't say that. So that's kind of where we're at. This is the ongoing thing. Every time I get information, it'd be nice if I was about 3 weeks earlier in this presentation. I think we'd be a little bit further in the process. It's a little bit frustrating, but
If my memory serves me correctly, they're gonna get back to you within 15 days, and there was no furloughs at that 15 days.
well, I just got.
No, I'm just saying that's what they were gonna get back to you.
Yeah,
You're doing great, but
when I get asked, I respond quickly with the question, and sometimes it is a couple weeks between information. So I guess he's reviewing it, and it's one of those things. I guess there's more to it than he originally thought. So
well, for them to tell Middlesex that they're gonna get back to us in 15 days, and then they don't, and then now they use furlough as an excuse.
yeah,
If they'd have done it in their time frame that they initially said they were going to do, they had staff on board.
yeah. If they should have sent it to, they should have made a determination by now, and they should have that determination from them.
Using the furloughs as an excuse.
Yeah, they can. So that's where we're at. Somebody was joking, since U.S. Fish and Wildlife is not there, maybe the time to go in is tomorrow. That's not the right thing to do. I'm sorry, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. So that's where we're at. We're waiting on that bit of information. Hopefully, I know we're trying to get this thing at least open by rockfish season, but I'm trying. Maybe if I get an answer, I'm gonna try to have everything to the next meeting tidied up, ready to pull the trigger and go. So
Everybody with a pickup truck, get it down there.
yeah, make it happen.
Mr. Krutz, I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
When you say the dune and removing that, that's the jetty of sand that's actually underwater that's coming out from the loading dock. Is that correct? or-
Yes, Mr. Walker's going to pull that up, and I know he's going to love it. He's always quick to have his Google Earth ready. So the dune area, see the bulkhead, it runs kind of in an easterly direction, then heads somewhat northwest or more northerly. So the area, let's say that the situation is very similar now. It may be worse, but that area it's a lot worse now. The area to the east or to the right of that bulkhead,
Yeah.
it is what they're consider, that has now become a dune.
Okay.
And we've had the conversation of building a road on it and all that. That's going to take a lot of regulatory. It's not to say it can't happen. It's just going to take more oversight and purview to be put into it. I'm trying to keep this simple and just removal of the material on the west side of the bulkhead, the retaining wall. I thought that would be easy, but they seem to be worried about disturbance or driving over it. We would place mats down. I've noted that we have to put, the last time they did it, they put mats down. I don't know if that kills tiger beetles or not. I don't know, or disturbs them. So we can take whatever precautions are necessary to save the dune. Well, we want to keep it simple. We want to take the material out of the basin for the boat ramp and not disturb the dune And that's the easiest environmental path that I can think of. And that's the path I've taken, and that still has complications because I guess we're working on that area of that dune. So that's where we're at right now with it. And I'm going to keep at it and hopefully get an answer from Andrew soon.
Thank you for keeping on it and all you're doing on it. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
It illustrates, there's so many different regulatory agencies that have so much jurisdiction over overlapping portions of a project. It's a space we don't navigate often, but I will commend Dave for trying. And we had a conversation a couple months ago because his initial conversation with the Corps was, oh, sure, we could probably work with you on that.
Yeah, it's easy. And that's why I came forward with this. I said, if this is easy, why not, why not
I was
make it happen?
skeptical
So,
from the beginning, but I
yeah.
won't.
I'm still
He's still
on it.
positive.
I'm still on it. I'm not gonna let it drop. So anyway, yeah, we'll keep on it and hopefully have an answer soon. And if for some reason I find out quickly, I'll start to call my contacts and try to line some of that up, find out other costs that we may have involved. I believe we're gonna have to purchase or rent some mats. I'm almost positive a turbidity curtain is gonna be in play, but we're not sure what the environmental restrictions are. I know there's some restrictions for the oyster beds that are adjacent to it for time and what you have to do for that. And also the tiger beetles. So we'll have to, this is just part of it. And this is a simple dredge. This is a very simple dredge in comparison to what Broad Creek was. So anyway, I really don't have anything else, just to kind of piggyback on what Chip was talking about, our capital improvements plan. We're going to be getting into that process here. We're only about 3 or 4 weeks away from the due date on the submittals. I don't know how, it's a little, I know this document was just prepared. I don't know how that's gonna, if they're gonna be able to insert that into some of their proposals yet. This may be a transition year, but I think by next year, you're gonna see the submittals and the request a lot, with a lot more detail than they have been in the past. So understanding that Chip's done a fantastic job putting that together, and Jack, it's a wonderful document. And I think it's going to help with that to prioritize some of those and find out cost on some of those projects. So just to let everybody know, we'll be going through that process here in November. That has to move pretty quick. That'll usually go, we try to get it to the planning commission in December so the board can act on it the first meeting in January. Then you have an approved document for your budget season. That's the schedule. Any other questions while you have me up here?
Generally speaking, and I did not ask you this before the meeting, so if you can't answer it, no flat footing from here. How are building permits and zoning permits? Have you seen them cool down, or are they still pretty much trucking right along?
They seem to, everybody's still busy. I need to get Jody to run a report.
Yeah.
I was gonna do that in the last monthly report and was too late. So
Okay.
I'll get that for the next month.
Well, it's okay. I'm hitting you flat with that
Yeah,
one.
that's fine. I do know that the period previous, we had about 30 new homes in one neighborhood, 29 or 30. So that really spiked it and kind of gave it a false. I think we may be back to a little bit more to normal as far as building permits. But it seems it's active, it just foot traffic seems to be about the same. So, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Kretz.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, regular agenda items. LEAD River Counties. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. We just want to take a couple minutes to share a quick update and a funding request that I think will have a big impact on Middlesex County. As some of you might remember, Lead River Counties is a regional leadership development program that brings together professionals and community members from the Northern Neck and Middlesex to learn about local government, business, and community issues and how we can work together across the region. This program has been around for a while, but it kind of stalled out after COVID. It was reconstituted, but when it was kind of more focused in the Northern Neck. So I've been working with some of my colleagues at the college to sort of reintroduce Middlesex into lead and get some of our young up and coming leaders more involved with this program. It runs from September through June with monthly sessions. And as I alluded to, you have things like economic development will be one, and we'll have community leaders who work in economic development actively. We'll have leaders from the judiciary, from public safety, from county administration. And these young leaders and up and comers will be able to sort of get the full effect of talking with some of these folks. There's going to be a Middlesex County Highlight Day in May, and we're going to have a bus tour that's going to go around Middlesex and look at our community strengths and maybe some of our challenges, so that we can work with our cohort to brainstorm and come up with innovative ways to look forward. Now, as part of getting Middlesex re-engaged, I'm requesting a $1,000 contribution to cover tuition for 2 participants. I've been on the steering committee since the summer. And as I was stepping through, setting up lead and getting ready for it, I realized I hadn't been through it myself. And so I will not only be on the steering committee, I will also be a student. I will be a member of the cohort. And as we look at the classroom makeup, it's people who are all the way across the continuum. Some of them are much farther along in their leadership journey. Some of them have never really had a role like that, but they aspire to do that. One of them is Shanae Hammond. Shanae Hammond's family owns a trucking business in the county. Delegate Hodges talked about getting those jobs here. And what better way than a family-owned business right here in the county. Sarah Murray will also be participating. A lot of you know her mom, Karen Murray. Sarah is looking forward to a career in public administration. She graduated from William & Mary. She's going to UNC Chapel Hill to get her master's so that perhaps one day she can come back to Middlesex and work. So one other was Tyler Radeball. Tyler, you might know from museum and from his work with the Historical Society, and he's just done a tremendous job trying to preserve the history of Middlesex County. Tyler and Shanae were both given scholarships, so there's no cost for those folks. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. But just to sum up, altogether, this puts Middlesex back in a leadership role regionally. It's a great way to build relationships with surrounding counties, share ideas, and strengthen our voice in regional discussions. Our first session was with a fellow named Jimmy Carter, some of you might know, over in Lancaster. Very dynamic individual, had great breakout groups after the session, and we're looking forward to being in Historic Christ Church this month. And so again, not to belabor the point, but I am asking for a $1,000 contribution to sponsor our 2 county participants. I will say I really appreciate the support you've already shown for leadership development in the county. And if you see fit to honor this request, it would be greatly appreciated. Are there any questions?
Is there a motion to honor the request of Mr. Gentry in the amount of $1,000? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Also move.
So moved by Mr. Jesse,
Second.
second by Mr. Bill Harris. Any questions? Discussions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Crittenden,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Don Harris.
Yes, your motion is approved.
Thank you, board. And thank you especially to Randy, who's actually going to be coming and speaking to our group. And so
Good.
we greatly appreciate your efforts, and we hope to maybe see all of you there at some point or another. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, sir. Okay, item B, under regular agenda items, budget supplementary request, call handling equipment grant.
David Lehman could not be here. He had he ran into a conflict. This is a very easy acceptance of a grant, much like the one I think I did for him about 2 months ago, where he received $150,000 for call handling equipment. This will wrap up a project that, well, funding wise, completely funded by the state of a project that he and Rachel Easter are working on. So today we ask for, obviously, the approval of this budget supplement, as well as the, hold on, let me, I'm trying to see how he worded it. Approval and acceptance of the FY26 CHI grant for $200,000.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Bill Harris,
Second.
second by Mr. Crittenden. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Bill Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Crittenden,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Don Harris.
Yes, the motion for the acceptance of the grant for call handling equipment is approved. Okay,
Next.
moving right along.
Um,
Go
Thank-
ahead.
Thank you. At this time, we do have a representative of the Department of Behavioral Health and Development Services. What is it called? Middle Peninsula Northern Neck Behavioral Health. We do this every year. We have a contract that we need to approve every year. And at the same time, they usually do a presentation of kind of a little update of where you are.
Yes, so good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I did have some information to share. My name is Amanda Campanola. I have been with Middle Peninsula Northern Neck Behavioral Health for 25 years as of September. Do you pass those around?
I'd be delighted.
Thanks so much. My current role is as acting executive director for the agency, and I've been in this role since January. This is our biennial contract with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. So this contract guides our funding and our service agreement with the department. We use these, we get state, federal, and local dollars from you all, and we also maximize insurance billing. As you see in the chart that I gave you, I just gave you a breakdown of what we received, we're expecting to receive this year for our local, federal, and state funds. It is in the Code of Virginia and also in our performance contract that the localities match at 10% what the state and feds fund us. That is in the performance contract and the code. We provide an array of services, anything from emergency services, outpatient community supports. For FY25 in the county of Middlesex, we provided over 30,000 services to 373 individuals in this county. We have the largest footprint as far as facilities within this county. We have 6 locations here within Middlesex County. One of the largest populations we served within this county that I found interesting was children ages 0 to 5. So those are children in early intervention or prevention services. And another 28% of the recipients were youth ages 0 to 20. And then we also served the older adult population, and 12% of the recipients were seniors 61 plus years old. And I will entertain any questions the board may have about our performance contract. I did not bring the contract with me. I did provide a link to the contract. It is 400 pages, so I did not bring that with me. And there are 40 CSBs in the state of Virginia, and it's the same contract for every CSB. It's a standard contract with the Department of Behavioral Health.
When typically is the contract executed? Because on your paperwork, it says 26, 27 budget, I'm guessing, which we won't approve that until 26.
Yeah, it's a biennial contract, so it's for every 2 years that we have to renew this. And it's
So-
just expected that the localities are gonna do a 10% match, and if they don't, then I have to request a waiver or do an in-kind match.
What does that amount come to for us?
This year, I believe the amount was 51,000, if I remember correctly, is what we requested. And it's based on per capita for the county.
Okay,
The request for FY26 was actually 61,965.
and what did we contribute last biennium?
I mean, let's see, the request before that, FY24 was 41,544. And then for FY25, it was 55,945 was the requested amount from us.
For this coming biennium, is that what you said? Or was that the last biennium?
No, that was the last one.
And
I don't know what we're gonna.
that was 54 and you're asking what? 61?
Well, That's what we asked. I don't believe that we received that amount.
What do we do in the past budgets? Can you give us a figure from our budget, what we actually determined?
But we've usually trimmed it back. I think we've historically funded them at 42. Does that sound right?
When, on your handout here, it says 6 locations within the county holds our largest facility footprint and stuff.
For our agency.
Is that because of the needs of the county, or that just happens to be geographically where the offices are?
We have offices here, we have residences here, we have youth and family right behind us, our administration building we have residences in Urbana, and we have offices in Urbana. We have another residence right here on, Tidewater Trail, so, yeah.
Well, okay, why, I guess I'm asking, why do we have more than other counties do? Do we have more needs for your services than other counties per capita, or what is, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it so happens, I mean, we like this county, yes. And also, you're a good midway point between the 10 counties.
Okay, so geographic,
Yeah, geographically, it makes
okay.
sense, yeah,
okay, thank you.
sure.
Okay. What else you got for us today?
That is it. I mean, I'm happy to come back at any point in time and highlight any service that you would all like to learn about and hear about. Please just let me know if that's of ever interest for you all. We have a very robust peer program, which is people with lived experience, which is, I find, very impactful for people that have worked in their recovery and are doing well. So if you're ever interested in hearing from people with lived experience, I'd love to bring somebody back with me one day and do even during a work session, however you would like, okay?
Great, wonderful. Thank you for being here today.
Yes.
Of course, I can't commit to whatever
Of
number,
course, yes.
send your request in, and then when we get into the budget
Yeah.
part of that, we'll evaluate that and see how it is.
Yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. Oh, yeah. Motion to approve the
resolution?
resolution. Yes. Thank you.
What's the resolution?
It's in your board packet on page 114. It's a resolution for approval of your performance contract.
Uh,
I mean, at the end of the day,
We're
Mr.
just
Chairman.
approving the contract, no amounts and no numbers. Correct?
yes.
To my knowledge,
So,
that would be something
so
for,
this is normal procedure. So it's just the expectation that if the localities don't contribute the 10%, that the CSB has to find a way to make it up, or request a waiver. And ultimately, it could jeopardize our state funding, but it's not come to that so far.
I can't find it.
and it's also on your screens.
Okay,
While they're looking for that, they're also going to be our new tenants in the old Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission. We can never get all that old furniture and everything out of there. And I think Larry's been working with Anne Marie very well on trying to get us quotes to get it painted and getting the floors done for you.
Yep.
Happy to have you all in that space because you'll have both buildings then.
okay. So this resolution has no numbers on it, but I guess that's okay. We're just making a resolution that we're gonna proceed with the program like we have in the past. What those amounts will be subject for another day. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to approve the resolution approval of a performance contract.
Great. I need a second.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Jesse, seconded by Mr. Crittenden. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Crittenden,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Don Harris.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Motion was approved. All right. Okay, item D, 5D, citizens appointments.
At this point, I still have 3 vacancies, one on Building Board of Zoning Appeals, one on Planning Commission, one on Planning Commission, and we have 0 applicants. So at this point, no action required.
Right.
Matt, can I go back and ask, Matt, can I ask you a question back? You said they're a new
Absolutely.
tenant. What, is it okay to open in public what they're having to pay for the building over there in rent?
Yeah, that was all done.
It was
in
approved by the
full
board. I don't,
Board, so.
Yeah, the board approved the
Yeah,
contract.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
wondered what if you happen to know.
What are they paying in rent? Do you have that lease handy, Anne Marie? We have to go back and look at it, but it's a pretty much standard rate we charged, I think both buildings the same rate. You can go back and look at that, Bill. That's not a problem at all.
And I know a lot of some of the homes, they even got one up in Warner that they keep special
Yeah.
people in it. And then I know who rents it out and, you know, they're paying the property tax and all that stuff like that. So
You're saying that
it's connected.
owns a house.
But they don't own it. Mr. Brown owns a house, but he rents it out to CSB. He rents it out to CSB. See what I'm saying?
And then they put people in there as they need.
Yeah, they have people that catch buses, go different places that are special people that live right up in Warner.
Okay, so she's.
The old Hog House, the old Hog House. No Carl Hog, that house over to the left.
Yeah.
That's where they stay. They got about 4 or 5 people in there.
Hey, Anne Marie.
We can get that letter. We don't need to hold up.
Okay, we're gonna move right along then.
Yeah.
Administrative updates, cigarette tax report only, staff reports, including in the booklet, report only, and 2027 draft budget calendar, which is up at the very end. I'd like you to look it over, not necessarily now, but if we need to amend or change any of the dates, please look those over. In the next meeting, we'll look at that.
Absolutely. We had made the amendments the board had asked for last time we looked at it. No Friday meetings, and we still get the majority of the process done before the end of March. It's going to be an expedited process, and we're probably going to be waiting on the state. As Keith said, there's all new menagerie of goodness waiting for us in the state budget process. So we'll probably be approving something contingent upon state appropriations, as we have done in the past. No big deal.
Okay, item number 8, unfinished or new business. Unfinished or new business. Okay. Matters presented by the board, and I'll start with our senior member.
All right, September the 16th, we went to the closed landfill in Albemarle County. September 29th, emergency service meeting, we attended that, and, you know, David Lehman talked about the grants on that, and also the department's, cost of living, 3% for, the budget for all departments. Arts Festival Foundation meeting, I attended that one, and, you know, the Arts Festival coming up real soon. Middlesex Sports Complex, as you know, the golf tournament is this Friday, attended that one, and, a lot going on there, and I think all the teams are covered right now. You can't add any more teams, so that's a good thing.
Yep.
And that's it for me, for my report.
The only thing that I want to mention is the trip to Danville to see the training facility. It's an incredible system that they put together up there. They start out training kids in middle school and they checking their aptitude, see what they're interested in, and they'll go anywhere from they'll do everything from electricity and plumbing and welding to they have a simulator up there for driving a tractor trailer or driving heavy equipment, repair the roads. They've got It's phenomenal. And what they've done is they've put together a coalition of counties and cities who have funded this, and then they've now received state funding to continue on. And it's just I can't speak highly enough of that, and it's something that I would certainly like to see us be able to, even in a small way, reproduce here in the eastern part of the state. Their one program, I want to say it's core, but I don't know if that's the correct term they had as but anyway, that's the one that started in middle school, and they've actually been expanding that out around the state. And I think most recently York County is signed into it. And so once hopefully we'll be able to get it up here. And I think it's just a wonderful program, and it's something that we need very badly as far as vocational education for our kids.
Randy, I happen to serve on the Hampton Roads Public Works Academy Board. And they have something similar to what you're talking about. It's not as elaborate, and they don't start the youth anywhere near as young as that, but it is. I mean, they're Hampton Roads now, yeah, but there is something like that we can probably tap into a little bit. I think we're outside of being considered Hampton Roads up here. I think probably is Gloucester considered Hampton Roads or not?
They kind of straddle that boundary.
Okay, but I know they would help if we had students or whatever wanted to try to get involved with something like that. I'm sure they would help. When I was last involved, though, they were not down into the grade schools like that. Pretty much you were graduating, they're going to teach everything from how to make concrete forms, operate heavy equipment, so forth and so on. So they may have developed something even more so, but there is something.
Yeah, they did. They had I guess, college level program there that started out with welding, and then being able to do the review, to check the work. That's actually a career track, is to do I guess, the essays and everything to make sure that the work is done properly. They measure it. I mean, it's just an amazing situation.
They run theirs with forgot what they call them, some like they're experts in a certain area, and they pretty much pull from the different municipalities in Hampton Roads, and most of the time they're engineers.
And I asked them what the hardest obstacle they had, and they said finding people to train, to do the training.
So what they do is you're in the group. So one of your engineers is going to be helping teaching the class. So kind of all in together, so on and so on.
Mr. Williams?
Well, just like the rest of them saying, I went up to see the solar site. Went down to see him pour the cement down at the airport. And the other thing, we had a meeting, I call it a social service meeting. But anyway, one thing that kind of like I paid a lot of attention to when I asked them how much funds that they have left, what kind of funds that they have. They say 1.7, and I say the only time, I said, what you say? I said, well, at 1.7, that's million. And everybody, we always say that, the county don't pay much to Rebecca's outfit. But yet, now I want to know the figure, because it's somewhere around $400,000 they're gonna probably come out of your budget. So it is money out there, and I really would like to see the flow of the money in and out. And therefore, any organization that's gonna do a budget this year, I want to see the money in and flow out, and how it's being spent, because we can't have transparency if everything is covered up. And we can't find money. I told you this, one thing that got me on this walk was when somebody told me you can find money. See, you can't find no money unless you put it there. Somebody put it there and you ain't use it. That kind of like touch a little thing on me. So I'm gonna tell you, whoever's listening, if y'all on the thing, I'm looking for the money that I need to find, because I don't like to find it. And my buddy don't like to find money neither. And I'm not gonna call his name.
Okay, I attended which was very informative, the Dominion trip to Charlottesville for the solar farm there on a closed landfill. And the Norris Bridge dedication, or I guess it wasn't really a dedication, when Governor Youngkin came down, attended that. I'll remind you that we have a joint meeting with the school board for the architect to come in and present what 5 or 6 options. And that's on the 14th. And then the EDA build meeting, when is that? At 5 o'clock, correct? Okay, put that on your calendar, EDA joint meeting.
And Mr. Chairman, you and Supervisor Jesse are going to be meeting with the town officials on October 30th. 2
Yeah.
town officials.
I hadn't written that down yet.
Yep.
29. Hold on. October 30th.
What was that meeting you brought up?
Which one? The one he just talked about? The town wants to meet with myself, who represents the town, and Mr. Jesse, who represents his district. I'm not quite sure, kind of got an idea what they want, but right now it's still somewhat a surprise. They're keeping their cards pretty close to their chest.
21st is the EDA.
Yes,
EDA meeting on 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock. So we'll be able to give you an update what they're looking for when Wayne and I meet with him. Okay, moving right along, I'm gonna open the meeting for the public comment.
I will be brief, and you may ask me questions. You can blame Randy for this. Blame him all day long, because I had the distinct pleasure to accompany Matt and Randy to that Danville meeting.
I'm sorry, we need your name and
Oh.
address.
Yeah. Richard Lewis. Where you live? 14296 General Fuller Highway, Hardeeville, Virginia, 23070.
Continue on.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
I had the distinct pleasure of attending the Danville meeting with Randy and Matt and some other members and Delegate Hodges. I was really impressed with those people up there. And like Randy said, they pushed this stuff down to middle school level. One of the, and what York County brought on, that is a training center. So it's a train the trainer training center going up down in York County. So if we want to be involved in this, we can send our trainers down there. The other thing I want to bring out that Randy might have missed on that, they had an 85% graduation rate from that class.
Interesting what they're doing.
And an 87% job rate from those graduates. Employment rate.
Oh,
The only thing they're required to fund is food. Room is covered, tuition's covered, 18 to 73 is the age group. So anything we can do, and if the board, I make this offer to anybody, member on the board. If you don't want to take the bus trip up there, Danville Regional Airport is just a hop, skip, and a jump right away from them. I will get you in my airplane. I will fly you up there. It takes an hour.
It's impressive.
cool,
All you have to do is ask.
cool.
You got my one. Yeah, you got my.
One thing, you said the age was 18 to 73?
18 said their youngest grade, their youngest student is 18, their oldest student they had was 73. It's paid for by the federal government.
Cool. We, after that meeting, a couple of us have been kicking around the idea of maybe that would be something later that we could look at and combine it with several counties.
Regional approach.
Home it in Middlesex, but see if we could get some interest from some other counties. So that's a work in progress. Right, right. Okay.
Well, if there's no other public comments, we can close that.
Okay. Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'm gonna close the public comment session and
Anne Marie has an answer to your question about monthly rent.
monthly rent.
$100 a month for each building.
That's a good number. Okay, cool. All right, do we need a motion for closed session or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the board needs a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A1 and A3 and for A8. This is because for the board to discuss personnel matters regarding the county administrator and the county attorney. And so the board can discuss the acquisition of real properties. I understand there's more than one for a public purpose where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect your bargaining position. And so that you may consult with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters, procedures, and questions about the acquisition of said properties.
So move. Motion to go into closed session made by Mr. Jesse.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bill Harris. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Crittenden,
Yes.
Mr. Don Harris.
Yes, motion's approved and we're gonna move into closed